Hey everybody, how's it going? It's time. Um, yeah, we got a really great stream planned for you all tonight with a nice little surprise at the very end for those of you who stick around. I know there are a lot of UK listeners, so if you guys stick around, I really appreciate it, and you've definitely earned it. Um, Before we get started, I just want to take a second to thank each and every one of you. A couple hours before the stream happened, I hit 1,000 subscribers, which was an absolutely incredible milestone to hit in these first couple months of streaming. Um, all of your support, comments, kind words have been extremely humbling and have enriched my life in an incredible way. So thank you to everybody. And it couldn't have come at a better time because this is a stream that I am very excited for. And I'm very excited for it not just because I get to talk about something that excites me and that I think is special, but it excites me because I get to talk about it in a different way than I normally do. Most of you guys that have been watching me have seen me talk about the mechanics of Hedron and Icosa and in the different ways that the price can go up in miraculous ways. But I haven't really shared with you guys some of my thoughts behind this system and the potential that it has, not just in terms of what it can do price-wise, but what it can do for us, our community, and really the world. Just with Hex and the potential I saw with Hex to give us financial freedom in a way that's trustless, decentralized, and allows us to earn yield while we do it, I see these same things in Hedron and soon to be Icosa when it launches. And that to me is nothing short of miraculous. The ability to compound my capital, earn yield with complete autonomy, without having to go to any kind of middleman, without having to worry if somebody is going to shut down my account or not let me access to it, gives me the hope and excitement for the future that I haven't had since I discovered the system. And so for all of us who are participating in it this early, we have the opportunity to spread the most amount of gratitude, love, and appreciation with the world because of the freedom that all of us will reach because of this system, both Hex, Hedron, and Icosa. Now, I'm not just excited because of the thing that I get to talk about these things in the system, but I get to talk about it with somebody who has really stood out from the rest of the crowd in these pre-Pulse Chain days. I have somebody who has coded now 2 contracts completely on his own, one that is live and one that is about to be live, but the test set is also up. And to me personally, this kind of work, building things with the ethos that Hex has been built upon and that this community is built upon, it puts this guy up at the top with Richard Hart, and if not that high, as close as you could possibly get. And so without further ado, guys, let me bring on the man himself. Alex, what's up, buddy?
How's it going?
Dude, it's going great. Oh, man, let me tell you, I've been excited about this all day. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was in clinic and helping out some patients. I was assisting, and I was like watching them do like restorations, and I was like, man, I can't stop thinking about like what questions I'm going to ask or like what I'm going to say at the beginning of the stream. So it's awesome to be here finally.
Yeah, it's awesome to be here. I'm glad to be here. Got stuck in traffic for like 30 minutes, so that sucked. But
the
yeah.
woes of normal life.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, man. But how have you been? I know you've been really busy lately, working a lot, both on blockchain stuff, IRL stuff, and personal projects. So how have you been holding up amongst all of that?
It's stressful, man. Like,
yeah.
There's so many things I want to do, and so many things I'm working on. Obviously, Icosa is one of those. A lot of people know about the whole like Pulse Chain data center Infura clone that's being worked on in the background. So that's a thing. And then, and then I have a normal life. So I like cars and computers and whatever. So I've got way too many hobbies and not enough time. But
dude,
regardless, it's fun.
I feel you on that, man. Well, I got a nice list of topics. I'm sure we have plenty to talk about throughout this stream. But I think the best place to start is with you, like your origin story, how you kind of got into crypto, Hex, and then maybe at the end, if you want, touch a little bit on the beginnings of Hedron and the ideas when they first came to you.
Yeah, I mean, my crypto origin story is probably not too different than most people's, right? It's like I see these things going up and I see a lot of people making money and I'm like, I want to do that. That would be nice, right? So I get in it and then I proceed to lose all my money multiple times. um like at one point I'd wrote a bot. So like way back, I would say that I was really using like Bittrex. I don't even know if Bittrex still exists. At Binance, Bitfinex, and a lot of these, some of these exchanges don't exist anymore. But I was using a bunch of them, and I was writing bots that would look for like pre-whale pumps, right? Be like, oh, okay, this looks like something that a whale's about to pump, so buy in. And like it would work about half the time. The other half of the time, it would just get destroyed. So I basically made nothing doing all of that time. Apparently, I have distracting sunbeams on my face.
Oh yeah,
Fix that.
it fixed itself
Maybe.
a little bit a second ago, but
yeah, I think there's like clouds. We'll see if that makes it better.
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, cool. So yeah, like I went in hard, lost a bunch of money, roughly made it back, and then that's right about the time when I discovered Richard Hart, talking about well, at the time he was talking about Bitcoin, but then that kind of shifted to Ethereum and this Hex thing, and followed that, got in because I really liked the things he was saying. Right, I like a lot of the things Richard Hart brought up in the early days just really resonated with me. It's like, oh yeah, these are actually like good ideas, and someone should implement these, and I'll go in on this. So I did, and it worked out. And then not that Hex necessarily needed anything, but one of the biggest complaints that was kind of emanating around the space was like, man, I'd love to stake, but I don't know if I can commit 15 years, because that's a long time. Like Hex has only been around 2 years. Some of us might even die before that 15-year time frame comes up, which kind of sucks to think about, but it's probably
true. Yeah, that does kind of suck.
Yeah, but so I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, well, if people are going to make 15-year stakes, and you really want them to, ideally, like for the system, you want as much Hex to be locked up as possible. Then the idea that you should be able to encapsulate and trade a stake should be a thing, and it's a thing Richard talked about for a long time. Hey, someone go build this. And there were a couple things that tried and failed, and I was like, well, if you're going to do it, it can't just be that, right? It's got to be that, but it's got to have some kind of other element to it, and that was ultimately ended up in me writing Hedron and creating like the mintable shares and borrowable shares and this whole like liquidation market thing that people kind of go nuts over when it happens. So that's always fun to watch. And the idea, the funny part is like Icosa was kind of in the brain of at the time that I was writing Hedron. But I had this like dynamic that I wanted to explore where you're going to release this thing. It's going to give everyone free coins. You really want the whales that don't believe in it out. So kind of like my idea was, okay, launch Hedron. I don't quite have Icosa nailed down yet, but I should have it nailed down within a couple months of Hedron's launch. But just don't talk about it. Just be like, this is it. This is all of Hedron. And some people kind of caught on to it. Like people DM'd me and they're like, why does Icosa have all this, or not Icosa, why does Hedron have all this code that doesn't, that isn't used inside of it? Why does it return values it doesn't use for all of its functions? You would save gas. Yeah, you'd save gas if you didn't do that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, the gas is a little expensive, but I can't tell anybody why it does that because I want to be able to build on it after the fact. So yeah, that's kind of why all that's the thing. And now Icosa is coming out and people are excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that because I know a lot of people in the community have kind of speculated that like, oh, Icosa launched, and then on the back end, Alex is like, oh, let me fix the problems of Hedron now this has been released. But it really seems like, or for what you've just said, like this has been in your mind from the beginning, and the staggered launch has kind of been a long-term plan to get out the people who maybe don't see the potential of the system early, and then reward those who do once the full system has been announced. which
Yeah,
now
like
it
that.
has.
Like that's the big problem with airdrops, right?
Yep.
Is you give a bunch of people coins, and not everyone wants them.
Hmm.
So if you're gonna do any kind of like claimable, mintable airdrop thing, um, you want all of the people who believe and either hold their coins or buy more or whatever, like they like this idea. You want those people to be rewarded more than the people who don't believe in that, and they just want to dump the price.
Yep.
So having this staggered launch system was the only way I could think of doing it that made sense, because like even Hex had a way of incentivizing airdrop, because like you could claim Hex with Bitcoin, right?
Hmm.
And one of the things was that, okay, well, they can do that, but they have to stake that minimum year, right?
Yep.
And like the thought was, okay, well, they'll be around a year, they'll learn to like it, and it'll all be great, and maybe they won't all dump when their stake ends in a year. And that turned out not to be true. Like all those guys dumped,
Yeah.
almost every single one of them. So
Oh, of course they. Of
you know,
course.
so it's like you have to let them dump. Like I don't think there's a
Hmm.
way around it without them dumping.
Yeah, and it
But
is
like,
crypto. It's in the
yeah,
game.
true.
It's what the game we're playing.
Yeah. So my idea was just, okay, like we'll just withhold information instead of withholding funds. We'll withhold information until most of those guys do what they're going to
Hmm.
do.
I like that, and it's kind of with a theme I've been playing with in my head, and I've talked about it in the chats a little bit. But it's like it seems to me like Hex and Hedron are kind of like equal but opposite in terms. It's definitely like obviously in their distribution model, but I'm really finding it in a lot of different nuances. And I've been using the word that they express chirality with each other, and that's
Mhm.
kind of like your hands are chiral objects in that they're mirror images, but they're non-superimposable. So they're the
Mhm.
same, but like significantly different. And I think that's actually like another really cool example that like you that hearing that like brings that idea up for me, because it's like, oh, we'll withhold the funds from you for like an airdrop like Hex, but like this time we're going to withhold the information with you. You get all your coins up front, kind of thing, which I think
Yeah.
is really cool.
Yeah. And it maybe it ends up being no different. Maybe it doesn't really curb, the bad actors necessarily, but
Hmm.
I think it's got some interesting things, and the bad actors will be severely disadvantaged in
Yeah.
Icosa. So
Hmm.
that's always great. The thing I like about it, what you're saying about chirality, right? Um, it's like that's always been the thing, right? I've never
Hmm.
wanted to build anything. It's like it's easy to build something on top of Hex that, okay, you get some free tokens, you do some things, and like that's it, right? Like a lot
Yeah.
of people, the amount of DMs I have of people from saying like, "Oh, you should have just let it be a one-time deal and done, no
Hmm.
more claiming." And the problem with that is that it doesn't. If you do that, it doesn't benefit Hex anymore, right? It's
Hmm.
like it benefited all the people who got in at that time, but then everyone who gets cut off from that, like there's no consistent like
Hmm.
benefit to Hex, and like that's the entire point. Like Hedron really doesn't exist without Hex, and if it's
Yeah.
not at least contributing somewhat to the benefit of Hex's growth, then it's like I don't really want to do it.
Yeah.
So that's Hedron, and it's Icosa too, and the whole
Hmm.
idea is that these three things, it's really just like a Hex staker's dream, right? Because now you have like if you had the option of staking Hex, like that was your only option. It's either that or holding it or dumping it or
Flip it.
buying it, whatever.
Yep.
That's normal. But as far as things that are not like normal market stuff, the only thing you can really do is stake it.
Hmm.
And you know, Hedron was brought in to add some more things, and then Icosa really adds the other missing things that kind of create a triangle between the
Hmm.
three systems where you can freely move between them,
Yep.
and it's just all pump of metals.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. Um, and one thing that I want to ask you is so you seem that the origin of the idea of Hedron was through like the tradable stakes thing, where
Mhm.
like you can transfer stakes to each other, which we all know is the HSI, which is the thing that has gotten the most acclaim amongst the community. Even amongst the critics, you'll always hear them say, the HSI is great. It's an awesome piece of tech, but the token was unnecessary. And it seems
Mhm.
like that was the initial thing, the initial genesis of the whole system. So like throughout from that idea to like the main net and like developing the code, like when did like the token start to come into play, and like the minting feature, the advanced feature, all of that, how did that fit into that process?
Well, I think if I remember correctly, it's hard to go back
Yeah.
but it was over a year ago. But I'm pretty sure minting was first. Like that was the first
Okay, that was the
real
first thing.
idea. Because the idea was like, okay, instead of trading hex stakes directly, let's have a
Mm-hmm.
token that is representative of a share. Then we'll just trade that. Because the thing I didn't like about trading stakes exclusively was that it has to be, you either have to do what Maxi did and everyone
Mm-hmm.
gets into one stake, or it has to be illiquid. It has, because they're non-fungible by nature. So you don't really have an option to do like tradable hex stakes on Uniswap.
Mm-hmm.
So the first idea was like, okay, let's just take the T-share, make a proxy token, and then trade that, and that is the token.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really just like, well, that's kind of boring and not enough. So so then the next thing is, okay, well, what if you can borrow hex stakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that adds an interesting dynamic eventually. Like even if this token comes out and it's a dumb fest initially, like eventually borrowing will make sense if it's liquidity prepared, like paired to hex. It'll all
Mm-hmm.
balance out eventually. So borrowing would be cool, right? Because that allows you to effectively short the share price, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a proxy, but it's effectively what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So those were kind of like the first pieces, and then I realized in that like, oh well, borrowing's gonna make me have to encapsulate stakes anyways, so might as well just finish it off and do the NFT bit.
So the NFT bit, the HSI kind of came at the tail end, and I think
Yeah,
that's what I remember from the early days. Like the initial idea for Hedron is like, okay, I want like an ERC20 derivative of a B share, and like
yeah,
that was like the initial thought, and that's kind of like what I've been saying to a lot of people who bring up like the infinite mintability of the token, and I'm like, well, if we didn't have that, it wouldn't be what it is. It would be something else, because
hmm,
what is trying to be done is having an ERC20 that represents a B share that has paid out hex for a single day. You know?
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. Um, and now it's a little bit not that, because now you have this dynamic of burning and other things like that. So it,
Mm-hmm.
um, but the thing is like it eventually balances out, because like you can't guarantee every single person who makes a hex stake is going to mint it. You can't guarantee that every single person who borrows is going to pay back. So
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of what like the AMR is there for, is to just make sure that that core idea that like, hey, of the people who wish to participate in this, which is probably a subset of all hex users, not the entirety of them all.
Mm-hmm.
The AMR bonus is just there to like, okay, let's make sure this little mintability thing stays in check as far as it being this derivative T-shirt thing, because if it ever goes too far one way, then it just becomes like a big loan shark liquidation system, and I didn't really want that. So AMR kind
Yeah.
of just like is like the last piece. Like if all else fails and everyone
Yeah.
uses it wrong for a long enough period of time, like AMR will just kick in and
Mm-hmm.
fix
We'll get
everything. So.
another hyperinflationary period.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah.
For one day, it only,
But yeah.
well, it could exist multiple days, I guess, if not
Mm-hmm.
enough is minted in that first
Yeah.
day.
And it makes sense too. Like, you know, if you're having people take advances on their HSIs, like you need to make sure there's enough Hedron out there to be able to pay it back, which is like what you're talking about, like this mass liquidation event. Like it's kind of like you said, like the last line of defense, so the system doesn't break in
Well, yeah,
on
and
itself.
like the whole thing with the whole like borrowing minting dynamic with Hedron, right? That a lot of people don't think about is like you have to have this crazy inflation up front and distribute
Mm-hmm.
these coins as far and wide as you possibly can. Because if you don't, if you let them be centralized control, like only a handful of whales have the majority of these tokens, and there's borrowing, well, those whales can just go buy all the tokens and then
Yep.
liquidate everybody because they can't buy them to pay their loans off, and then the whole thing breaks. Because like this is like the difference between something with an oracle, because I really didn't want
Mm-hmm.
oracles, I didn't want admin keys, I didn't want all these things. Just
Mm-hmm.
like, and you need those things in order to do like lending at fixed value,
Yep.
and no one's really tried to do this idea of lending with no fixed value. Market decides
Mm-hmm.
the value, but in those cases you don't need the oracles, you don't need all these fancy things. You can make it immutable, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but it seems like it's working okay pretty so far. People are using it. There are
Yeah.
liquidations. Most of them are probably intentional, or someone who
Mm-hmm.
forgot that they did it. Hopefully not so much, but it
It
probably
works.
it does work, and people love the auctions, and they're bidding like 400-500% on average above what that guy actually borrowed. So like someone borrowed
It's
like
crazy.
like 500-600 million, and then it goes for 8 billion,
Mhm.
and it just
Yeah.
shows that this hyperinflationary period within Hedron, that a lot of people, that's like the value differential of what people
Mhm.
think. But the fun part about that differential is it's like it doesn't matter what you think, right? It's like everyone can
Yeah.
think the price is not worth a whole lot, so it isn't on market. But it doesn't change the fact that these tokens all came from hex stakes, right?
Yep.
There's only so many to go around. Yes, there's billions of them, or I guess trillions of them. So there's
Mhm.
trillions of these tokens, and that seems like a big number, and it is, but it's not a lot of hex stakes that made them
Yep.
comparatively. So you just watch like what is trillions of tokens will dwindle so exponentially fast, because when you have
Mhm.
like a couple 100,000 stakes created a trillion tokens, when those end and then get recreated and they have less shares, like it's an exponential decrease in mintability.
Yep.
Like it goes so fast. And
Yeah.
we've already seen
Yeah.
it.
In my opinion, Hedron is already rare. Just like kind of running the numbers, like what it take, like the dollar value it takes to be a dolphin or like a squid. It's like 800 million for a squid, 8 billion for a dolphin,
Mm.
and then seeing the dollar value now with this pump, which I'm sure that feels great for you, seeing the price go up for something you created. But not just that, that's one thing, the dollar value to obtain a relative position within the entire system, but also the new people who enter the system, how much they get. Like
Mhm.
that to me is the really palpable metric for how rare this token is. Not just for new entrants, but also restakers who lose their launch phase bonus. Because a lot of the volume that we see from minting right now is from people with like 10x bonuses. Yet when you lose that, you can even calculate how much Hedron you get for like 1,000 T shares, and it's like a couple billion for a
Yeah.
5555. It's not a lot,
Yeah.
So there's this like illusion that's happening in the system right now where like this thing is abundant. There are so many zeros in front of like the first actual number. Small people own a ton of it that don't care about it because it's free and they're dumping it. It's like this like shroud in front of like everybody's eyes that like this thing is just so abundant. But like from my view, from my perspective and my understanding of the system, I'm like, man, like it's already here. Like it's rare. It's done. It's not abundant. It never was. If really.
Yeah, that's the whole like fallacy, right? Because the thing Hedron did, it really screws with people's heads in two ways. One is the unit bias, right? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
doing B shares, and there are people out there with like tens of thousands of T shares. Not many, but there are some.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they mint that first day, the first time they got it, and they got it at that 10x, and it's like they're minting almost 1 trillion tokens, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not thinking that, oh, this is 2 years worth, because Hedron let you mint from the beginning of history of time with Hex. As long if you had a stake on day one and you still had it when Hedron came out, like you could mint 2 years worth. And people didn't process that, and so they did. Some of them dumped, some of them didn't. Some of them just claimed and like, I'll wait it out. Not many did that, but there's a few. Those are probably the real believers.
Yeah.
But the interesting part of this is like when you see on a chart, they're like, oh, like 20 trillion tokens got dumped, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it happened in like a month or two of time. They think, oh well, in 2 more months, another 20 trillion are going to get dumped, and it's like they don't exist. There is no
Yep.
more 20 trillion to dump, because
Yep.
they that initial part where it let everyone just mint that backdated 2 years. There's tons of tokens. They're like, oh wow, I got all this Hedron. Now they have to wait for little bits to come out every day,
Mm-hmm.
every day, and it's like you see whales that were able to dump 800 billion tokens, and now they wait 40, 60 days and maybe they get 20 billion, and it doesn't really do anything to the price, because the price has that all of their like 800 billion tokens are all in the price chart now.
Yeah.
Like they're
Yeah.
all distributed over all these people,
Oh,
so it doesn't do anything.
mm-hmm. And and you ran these numbers, and I kind of looked at it too. But there isn't enough Hedron in the liquidity pools for all the whales to get back all the Hedron that they sold at the beginning. Heck,
No.
only one maybe might be able to get most of it back, but two, no. Like so, it's over. Like they lost their position if they sold their 2 years worth of Hedron up front. They have to
Yeah, like
leave.
let me actually look at it, because I was
Yeah.
looking at it earlier, but last I looked at it, it was like maybe 400 billion were available in liquidity. and that's like half of a shark, roughly.
Yeah.
So half of one shark. Yeah. Okay. So there's 348 billion in the biggest pool, right? So half of a shark could theoretically get their position back, and for them to do that, they'd have to take the price to infinity. So that they just will not be getting those 2 years of tokens back. It's impossible.
Yeah. It's cool to think about, and especially to juxtapose that with like the community's perspective, because there's kind of been like an internal battle amongst community members where people are like, yo, like this thing's super rare, and everyone's like, what are you talking about? This is a dump forever token, like don't waste my time. Right. And for me personally, kind of just, obviously everybody knows which side of that argument I've been on, but watching that collective conversation been going on, and this is one of the things I talk about that's cool about the Hex community and watching its growth, is like the collective conversation to elucidate the properties of the system. We've just been watching that play out in real time with Hedron, with the scarcity and rarity of the system. But real quick, I want to jump from this topic to one other thing, away from mechanics a little bit, and something a little more personal. And I want to ask kind of what your experience has been watching this community grow so quickly within the Hex community.
Ah, man, it's like it was so small at first. Like, well, yeah. When we were talking about Hedron and I made the channel, and it's kind of funny because originally Hedron was named Icosa. And really? I decided not to name it that because a scam coin came out on BSC called Icosa, and they were doing an ICO and stealing a bunch of money, like right in the middle of me writing it. So I was like, okay, we'll just change it to Hedron. Mm-hmm. And then that scam coin never actually launched. They just took everyone's money and then they deleted their domains. They actually offered me the domain. They were like, oh, you want to buy our domain after we scam these people? And I was like, I don't want your fucking domain.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it's like, no, I don't. So yeah, anyway, so like Icosa is like a name that I kind of had for a while, and it fits now, obviously. But the original plan was launch Icosa, then launch Hedron, not the opposite. But yeah, it's like when it first started and people are getting really excited about this, the community was pretty small. Like we really quickly went to thousands of members on Telegram, but the majority of those people were free coins, yeah. I like free coins, right? Like that's the thing. And that's the thing I'd say most people are still in right now is like the free coin mode, because that is an aspect, Hedron. But then maybe like 20, 30 people at that time were really sitting in the voice chats, really deep diving on all the ways these things are going to interact and the scarcity is going to multiply over the years and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And that little core group of 30 people has become probably thousands. Like I think almost everyone in the Icosa chat room is an indicator of people who kind of figured out like the complexities of Hedron. And now that Icosa is basically on the brink of being public, you're seeing a lot more people now kind of take that leap and actually understand what Hedron did, because the majority in the beginning were just like, oh, free tokens, sweet. Mm-hmm. I like this. I like free tokens. And
who doesn't?
Now they're figuring out the rest of it. And you see a lot of people come into the Hedron chat and they're like, hey, I dumped all my Hedron. I didn't know about all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, you can try to get it back.
Yep. You can wait 2 years or get it back for whatever stakes don't end at that point.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Like I guess it's kind of like the redemption phase, right? It's if you learned about this and you were like, okay, and we were patient, you could theoretically wait another 2 years and get back what you had. But at that point, you're probably severely like disadvantaged compared to everybody else who didn't do that. But you can still do it.
Yeah, the option is there, which is good. You just have to wait, and you know what? That's kind of an integral principle of Hex, anyways. So it is what it is. And we're still crazy early, where anybody who's in now is going to be way advantaged over new entrants, and even just a year from now.
So, for sure.
I don't. It's unfortunate, but it's not that bad. We're all here and we're all going up together.
No, and I mean, if you look at the cost, it's like there's like this number I like to make up. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but if you look at the cost of a T-share, right? So, what is the cost of a T-share? Do you know? Is it?
Dude, I don't know. It's
$2,000,
23,000 Hex,
roughly.
Yeah.
Let's get the calculator out.
at 23,000 times what? 6 cents?
We'll say 6. So
Like
13,
1,300.
1400. Yeah. Okay. So the price of a T-share is roughly $1,400, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the cost of that Hedron for 2 years right now should be significantly higher than its actual price on market. If you're just going off, hey, it cost me $1,400 to make the stake, which means you have nothing, right? When you make a hex stake, until you end it, assuming you actually serve it, you have nothing. So it costs you until you end the stake, whatever the price of a T-share is, to get the Hedron.
The way I describe it is like that's the amount of money you need to put into the system to extract one Hedron.
Yeah. So, and I look at the price now and of Hedron, it's gone up quite a bit, but I believe we're still under that point where, one Hedron is worth roughly what it actually costs to bring into the world. So I think right now, if you're buying, you're probably still in discounted phase, so, and probably still will be that way for a little while. I imagine.
Well, yeah, and I know we haven't really talked much about the mechanics of Hedron, but I think most people who are here kind of understand it, and if not, all the resources are there. However, Icosa is a little bit new, and I think this is the perfect kind of time to segue into that. And I think it would be good to start with just like the bare basic mechanics to set the ground for that conversation. If you want to go ahead and do that.
So Icosa is fun. So Icosa is all about rewarding the people within the protocol who want to be in it long term. And it does that through a couple of ways. There's really 4 core features. The first one that everyone's excited about is Hedron staking. So you're able to take your Hedron and you're able to turn that into a stake. And that stake will earn you Icosa tokens. The fun, nifty part about that is that kind of differentiates it from Hex is you can only have one of those stakes. So you only have one Hedron stake per wallet. But you can add more Hedron into the stake over time. So if you create a Hedron stake and then a month later you're like, okay, I'm going to mint some more free Hedron, you can inject that free Hedron you just got into the stake, and now your stake's bigger, and you're maintaining the old amount of like if you had to think in Hex terms, right? Like you get T shares, but if you end it and make a new one, you get less shares. This lets you maintain your old shares. You can just add more and just make it a bigger stake. So like I think that's a really fun part. That's the part most people are excited about. It seems like. That Icosa token you get though can also be staked, and all the same rules apply to it as Hedron staking. The difference is instead of you getting just Icosa for staking Icosa, you get Icosa and Hedron as the staking reward. So 2 tokens for staking 1. So it's like this kind of like circular system where you can stake Hex, get free Hedron, stake Hedron, get free Icosa, stake Icosa, get free Icosa and Hedron. It's like it's yield on yield on yield on yield, just for staking Hex.
So just for clarification, why isn't that a bad thing? A circular economy within this ecosystem.
Well, if it's not circular, like this is kind of a problem. A lot of people point this out for the incentive token on PulseX, right? Is if you may not necessarily need it to be circular. It's maybe not necessarily a requirement, but it means that there is a token that takes the brunt of all the negativity, right? If Icosa was not circular, if it did not have this stake Hedron, get Icosa, then stake Icosa and get it and Hedron, it didn't circle back, then it would mean you're taking all of Hedron's inflation and basically just pushing it into Icosa and waving goodbye at it and say, okay, you deal with it, not Hedron's problem anymore, right? So you need this circular system in order to ensure that there is balance between the two, because the two coexist. And one of the other things with Hedron, we can get more into the nitty gritty, or with Icosa, is that the HSI buyback, right? It's kind of a crucial piece. So HSI buybacks are a way, like if you've made an HSI stake and you could go to OpenSea or Hex Market and sell it there if there's a buyer. But once Icosa launches, you'll be able to go to the Icosa contract and sell it directly there to the contract. And the contract will pay you some fixed amount of Icosa based upon like how much borrowable Hedron that thing has. But what the Icosa contract is going to do is it's going to borrow against the HSI, and it's going to purposely not pay it back. So the contract's going to get a bunch of Hedron, It's going to give that Hedron to the Icosa stakers for that day. And then it's just going to let that loan expire.
Mhm.
And what happens is that that HSI is going to get liquidated in 90 days because what's one of the portions of Hedron. And then people can bid on it, and there'll be some burnt Hedron happening. Well, burnt Hedron is how the Icosa contract determines yield. So you have this kind of dynamic system between those three features, where staking Hedron, staking Icosa, and the HSI buyback. Those three things create this ecosystem where you can get instant free Icosa for the HSI buyback. You can stake that, which will let you get some of the Hedron out that you just that the contract borrowed for you. That's going to throw this into liquidation auction, which is going to burn Hedron, which is going to increase the Icosa yield for everyone staking Hedron and Icosa. And as more Hedron burns, like one of the other pieces of this is how the bonuses work. Because like in Hex, when you stake, there's a bonus based upon how much Hex and how long you go for. Well, Icosa has no lengths. You can stake infinity, right? All that matters is the minimum stake length. So when you go in there and you make a stake, it's going to tell you, hey, your minimum is 30 days or 90 days or 180 days. And when that happens, you can end it early. You're just going to get a penalty to both your principal and your yield. Like it's unlike Hexes, where if you serve half, you at least get your principal back. In this one, if you serve half, you get 50% of both. So it's just a linear scale. And those bonuses can be affected by burning, right? Like let's say you're a whale and you go in there and your minimum stake length is 360 days, which is like the highest, and you're going to get that 20% yield bonus. Well, two things can happen. One, you can get diluted because people are still minting Hedron. So if you're not adding to your stake, well, maybe you get knocked down to a shark. Now you're 15%. Maybe you get knocked down to a dolphin. Unlikely, but maybe you do. And now you're 10%, right? But you still have to serve that 360 days. And I can touch on how that can actually be changed later, but we're probably adding too much complexity for right now.
Well, I'm sure we'll come around to it at some point.
Yeah. So the fun part here is that if you're not maintaining what you're minting and throwing it in there, you can get diluted. But also the reverse can happen, right? Because if a bunch of Hedron gets burnt and you're a squid, well, the total supply is shrinking. So if you shrink the total supply enough and you're a squid, you're only getting your 5% bonus. Well, maybe you get knocked up to a dolphin and you get a 10% bonus because so much Hedron got burnt in the auction that the supply shrank, and now you're not a squid anymore, you're a dolphin. So it's like those are all dynamic, and that's part of why it is circular, so that there's always like a better play, no matter what you are. It's like if everyone's staking Hedron, the better play is stake Icosa. If everyone's doing, whatever the people are not doing, will get more incentivized by the new people coming in because it'll be better opportunity there, and the circular system balances that. So anyway, sorry.
No. That was awesome, and that last little bit really gets to kind of some of the thoughts I've been having in the last couple of days, and I've been trying to map out like exactly how like the Icosa Hedron and really Hex as well becomes this or creates like a Nash equilibrium where like the most optimal thing for you to do when you consider everybody else's decisions is to do the thing you would have done in the first place. And then the way in which the system is dynamic, where if value is concentrated or the attempt to extract value is concentrated, say at one point of the triangle, the other two become much more incentivized to then branch out to move money in those directions, which then does the reverse, makes that original thing more value in the first place. And then as the system is moving and evolving within itself, the pressure valve, the thing that like allows the system to kind of release value, then also changes. Because the thing you were just saying with the way in which you could become, if you're a squid, maybe you're a dolphin later. Well, guess what? Now if you've served your minimum stake length and you're just waiting it out, now you're more incentivized to unstake your stuff,
Mhm.
And at least in Icosa, new Icosa is minted to increase the supply, which may bump other people down. And then you sell the price down, potentially giving like a discount to other people. But you've given a discount to people, but you've profited because you've waited that time, you've served the system, you've done something good for everybody else. And so now you get to extract value. But while you're extracting value, you're giving opportunity to other people. And that's like kind of the thing about the system as a whole that I've been really attracted to personally.
Yeah, and like the fun part is it allows you to play like between Hex, Hedron, and Icosa. You get to play 3 different positions within a broader liquidity system.
Mm-hmm.
That's a complicated phrasing, but it's pretty simple, really. You have Icosa, which is going to
Mm-hmm.
be likely high value, low supply
Mm-hmm.
for a very good chunk of its life. You have Hex, which is in the middle, and then you have Hedron, which is low value, extremely high supply. So you have these kind of dynamics of what ranges you can play through multiple liquidity pools, and they all influence each other. Like
Yeah.
that's the best part, is like not too many people know about the fact that Hedron and Icosa have direct arbitrage features with Hex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, like
Let's go
if the
into that.
Hedron price, yeah, sure. So if the Hedron price, let's say it moons, right? Let's say it goes, I don't know what a moon is for Hedron, but let's just say it's like it's now 3 zeros, right? That might even be a 10,000x, but 3 or 4 zeros, right? Let's say it's in
Mm-hmm.
that range. If that happens and it goes high enough, what will happen is you'll be able to make a Hex HSI stake, and that HSI stake will cost you less to make than the Hedron you could borrow for it, right? So you put
Mm-hmm.
$100 of Hex in, but you borrowed $500 worth of Hedron. So you could take that $500 worth of Hedron, sell it for Hex, and then take $500 of Hex and go in. Well, now that $500 is like $10,000 of Hedron you can borrow, and you can keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And what you're doing is every time you do it, you're exponentially increasing the value that you personally are extracting from the system.
Mm-hmm.
But you're bringing down the Hedron price and bringing up the Hex price until it's no longer possible to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you personally are extracting the difference value, right? The difference
Mm-hmm.
between the two. But the other thing you're doing that you're not necessarily aware of is that you're creating hundreds of Hex stakes.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're locking all this Hex up and you're doing it for 5,555 because that's like the best value prop
Yeah.
to
There's
do
no
it.
point not to. Yeah.
Yeah, you would make more money doing it for max length. So you're
Mm-hmm.
making all these stakes, and now you have absolutely zero hope of ever paying them off because you borrowed them all, right? So they're
Yeah.
all going to go to liquidation and they're all going to burn Hedron. Well, when they do that and people burn a lot of tokens, chances are the price probably goes up again, which means the arbitrage has the opportunity to happen a second time.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's the first one. The second one is that through HSI buybacks, where we're given that fixed value of Icosa for the HSI itself,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of the same thing where you can sell the HSI to Icosa, and if Icosa's price is above a certain threshold, well, you can take that Icosa you got, sell it for Hex, and do it again,
Yep.
And what this does is it ensures that any major positive price action in Hedron or Icosa brings Hex with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that the 3 will maintain this circular relationship just because the code demands it.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. And I know early in the Hedron days, it was that initial positive feedback loop that got people excited. We're all like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh shit! If this thing ever hits, like, it's just going crazy because like the Hedron price goes up, it pulls the Hex price up, and of course it pulls the Hedron price down too. But now that floor for the arbitrage in the first place has now gone higher. So
Yeah.
even though Hedron has gone down, net wise, everything has gone up together. And I actually think it's a little bit more powerful with the Icosa system, just because it's a little bit more direct. It feels with the HSI
Yeah.
buybacks, personally, yeah. And so with that, it's really cool because it's pulling up Hex with it, which is the foundational thing that kind of all brought us here in the first place. You got a little froze. Alex, a little frozen there. Can you hear us? All right, that's all right. I'll let him Let's see. I'll wait till he gets back. And while we wait for him to get back, I have. Oh, there he is. I was just gonna say thank you to everybody who's watching. I know I've been ignoring the chat lately, but I just want to make sure we have a really great interview, and I will be sure to come back to you guys later. What's up?
Am I good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Let's see, where were we? We're at talking about ARB, the ARB points, how they work together to bring the price of Hex up, and then that brings the floor up with it. And it really speaks to kind of the way in which these systems are built on top of Hex, because their success is dependent on Hex's success. But if Hex succeeds and these things succeed, then they all go up together in a synchronous way, in a synergistic way. Yeah.
Yeah, like they're all designed to just have max, potential for aiding Hex. Like that's kind of the core design component of both Icosa and Hedron. And it works backwards too, right? Like if Hex for some reason massively dumped and Hedron didn't,
pull everything down.
It would stop Hex from going below a certain point. Or at least eat a lot of that negative pressure into Hedron. So to make it harder to dump.
Yeah, actually that's something I have given less thought to. Everything for the arbitration, everything I thought of it, of Hedron or Icosa needs to meet the Hex price. But no matter where that ratio is, the Hex price can drop down far enough to trigger it anyways, which I think is which is actually pretty cool. And it kind of brings me into the next point that I wanted to talk about in regards to the arbitration, is that, ARB is an incredibly powerful force, in that, like, once that delta is created, like, people are hyper incentivized to take advantage of it because you're immediately taking profit. So, like, do you see these moments of time when the ARB is there to be like long, or that delta to be high in magnitude?
I think so. See, like, here's the thing, right? ARB exists everywhere. Like, a lot of people know, like, you can go to Uniswap and buy tokens and the price is what it is, great, right? But what a lot of people don't know about is that anytime anyone buys anything on Uniswap, there are thousands of bots constantly saying, okay, well, this pool's like 0.1% higher. So like, I'll front run this guy and then I'll move some funds over here and then I'll make like $12, right? And it's kind of dumb because this bot like spent $10 in gas to net 2 out of a $12 spread. But if it does it a few thousand times every day, well, maybe it adds up. It's a little bit different here because, like, a lot of these actions are not necessarily gas cheap, right? Like creating an HSI, it's not necessarily cheap. Ending Hex stakes not cheap. Like, it's cheaper now than it used to be, but it's still not a cheap action. So people are going to allow the spreads to go to a point to where it's worth the gas price differential.
Yeah.
Right. Additionally, by removing that ARB from like the Uniswap pools and bringing it into users, like, it's possible someone eventually makes a bot to do this stuff, but it'll mean normal people have the opportunity to like extract value through ARB instead of just all these bots on the chain that suck.
Yeah. And do you think hitting one or both of these ARB points will like be enough? Like, at least right now, it seems like there is a very tough road to walk, or a lot of work that needs to be done. Oh, did we lose him again?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
You're still good? Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. You're just frozen, but that's all right. So let's see, where was I going with that? Yeah. Is hitting that ARB once enough? Right now it seems like there's a long way we need to go. Maybe not so long with Icosa. We can get into that a little bit. But at least from my perspective, it seems that if we hit it once and it triggers one time, that positive feedback loop goes and the system then just works from there. Or do you think it's like it hits once, we lose it, and then like that work that we're doing now to get it there needs to happen again, at least on a similar magnitude? What do you think about that? Nope. Lost you again, buddy. All right, I'll give him a second, and I will go into chat. Yes, identity block. Remember to mint your Hedron before end staking. I've been seeing a lot of people on Twitter talking about forgetting to do that, or putting like little tape on it to remind them. Let's see. Let me go through the chat. Say hi to everybody. Mr. Profit, what's up? Hey, be mindful of love. We're all really glad to have you back in the community. Yeah, it's great to have you back. Silver the Antidote has been doing some pretty cool work on Twitter lately, pumping Hedron and Icosa launch. So that's really exciting. Thank you for that stuff, man. Let's see. Anybody start dropping questions? Oh, there we go. All right, he's
All
back.
right. I reset my router, so
Okay.
we'll hope that solves the problem.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Did you hear my question?
No, I
No.
think I got cut off halfway through.
Gotcha. Okay. So basically, I'm just asking is, do you think hitting these arbitration points once is enough? Or like, do we hit it, it goes back, and then it's kind of like it resets and a lot of work needs to be done to bring it back?
No, like maybe the Icosa side might have that piece, right? Like, because there's not a lot built in to bring it back. But the Hedron side does have the bring it back part because those ARB borrows will get liquidated and naturally bring the price back. And this is another reason for like the whole circular tokenomics is because one going up will affect the other, which will affect the other. You know, you end up in this just, you know, super reflectionary system where as long as people are using it, a massive value change in one trickles down into the others.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So speaking of R points, I think, at least personally, the first 90 days of or the first 30 days of Icosa launch, at least for within the shortest time frame, within like a short time frame, has the highest probability of us seeing one of these R points being hit. Do you want to explain why these first 30 days of Icosa are so special? Yeah, what about it is like really unique?
Yeah, so the like fun part about Icosa that's very different from Hedron is Hedron came out and then it was just like everyone can have all these tokens, right? Icosa is the exact opposite. Icosa comes out and no one has anything. No, there's not even like a centralized address, no SA, no OA, zero supply starting out. So if you want Icosa day one, well, a lot of people will think, okay, well, I'm gonna go stake some Hedron. But you can do that, but the smallest stake length minimum is 30 days, right? So if you end it before that 30 days is up, you're gonna have a penalty. So the only way to get it within that 30-day period without penalties is to do the HSI buyback, right? So you have to give something up of value into the contract in order to get that immediate liquid Icosa. And most likely, you're not going to want that Icosa to be sold from you. Like if you're not going to stake it, if you're not a staker, you're not going to want to sell that Icosa for less than it costs you to make it, right? So you're probably not going to like willingly put it in liquidity positions where you're going to just lose it all for less than what it cost you. So what that means is, on the flip side of that, is that Icosa staking pool, there's not going to be a lot of supply. Basically, everyone's going to be a whale. And it's going to get the same rewards that the Hedron pool gets in Icosa. So, like, it's going to just be this super lucrative thing. Like, we may see, like, triple-digit yield percentages per day. It's a possibility in that pool just because of the low supply of Icosa starting out.
Triple digit daily. That's nothing to scoff at.
No, like if you could put in 100 coins and then tomorrow it's 400 coins, you'd be happy with that. So like it's gonna be kind of nutso in the Icosa staking pool. And when that happens and we find out what those rates are, and if they're as high as I think they're going to be, like triple digits is like it's possible, but it may not happen if enough people FOMO into HSI buybacks, right? But
that would be great though.
Yeah, but if only like I don't know, like 20 people go into HSI buybacks, well, yeah, you're gonna see you're probably gonna see triple digit per day. But if you see that, like that's the good thing, right? Is like because if people outside of that ecosystem see, oh crap, like this token's earning like 400% per day yield, I want to buy it. Well, what happens to the price when you don't want to sell it below what it cost you? And everyone wants it because it's getting 400% per day. It's like, well, it probably goes above the ARB point.
Exactly.
So,
and that's if the whoever sets the initial LP sets it below that whatever the fair value of Icosa is in terms of hex, and I guess in dollars at the same time, because it kind of works out to be there's some dollar value fair price of it just based on hex.
Yeah.
And what the price of hex is at.
Yeah. So what you're gonna see in like the first 30 days is there's going to be Icosa, and I imagine someone will put it on market. But it's going to be really illiquid. Like there's not going to be a lot of it around. And if it's cheap, people will want it just because the yield will be really high starting out. So, once the Hedron stakers start serving their minimums and they're able to get out, things kind of balance. But that first 30 days are going to be really, really crazy.
special.
Yeah. And it's going to be important. Like it's important to understand at least the basics of how all these things are going to work, because like that's how you're going to know where the opportunities are is
Exactly.
When you see, because like on the Hedron, on the new UI, like you can see all the pool sizes and averages and stuff like that. So really helps you kind of paint a picture of where everyone's participating.
And for me, that's kind of what I've been trying to explain this to people who ask my advice on like what to do when Icosa launches. And I'm like, do I make an HSI? Do I like keep cash aside? And I'm like, well, you kind of need to be positioned in both, right? Because, and this is a conversation I was having with Nomad, I'm sure you saw, and that whatever price is set in the LP, it's an illusion. The actual price of Icosa in those first 30 days is whatever the fair value price is, because even the person who set the LP has to get it from the HSI buybacks. So they paid that price originally to get it, and they're giving you a discount out of, for whatever reason they might want to do it, for you to get it cheaper. So we don't know if that's going to happen or not, but you want to be positioned appropriately to take advantage of that, because this Icosa token is valued at whatever it costs to buy the stake and then stake it for 5,555. Where was I going with that? But you also want to have an HSI ready to go, because we may not see that price. And so lock in your T-share right now, which I don't think we've talked to exactly on the formula for HSI buybacks, but it's the T-share is taken into account twice in that formula. And so you lock in your T-share rate and you have it ready to go right off the bat, independent of whatever ratio price we see on day one.
Yeah. So it's like, just to go into that, like the math for how much Icosa you get for an HSI is the borrowable Hedron that it has divided by the hex share rate at the time, right? And that's how much Icosa it will give you. But the like important piece of that is your borrowable Hedron's also determined by how many shares your stake has, right? It's like you want your stake to have as many shares as possible. So you want to create it earlier, and then if you're going to do HSI buyback, going in earlier is also better than later, because the share rate will go up during that time and decrease the payout. So yeah, it basically does it twice.
Yeah. And this is something I talked about in my stream with cryptographics, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned this on Identity Block stream is where I realized this, and then I fleshed it out a little bit more on cryptographics stream. But with this HSI buyback being so intimately tied to the T-share rate, stakes that are made have like just added a third value prop on top of it that's related to the T-share. Both, your ability to get hex inflation, it gets exponentially harder over time. Your ability to get Hedron is locked in because you've locked in that share rate as long as you serve the stake. But also these HSIs are Icosa printers. And everybody who's making new stakes everybody who's making new stakes is getting double diluted by that formula, insofar as the T-share rate is going up, but also your ability to get B shares is getting harder. But once a stake is made, it's locked in that B share rate. So now these HSIs 4 times a year, if that's why you're buying them off the liquidation market, can print Icosa at a rate that's not diluted relative to what new entrants have to stomach if they want to get Icosa via this mechanism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And like the fun part of all this is like we've done a fairly good deep dive of all this. We haven't even talked about where all the essay yet.
I was waiting. I was like, we got a whole another part of the system to talk about.
Yeah.
That's like the side game.
Yeah. So where all the essays, like that's the thing for early people, right? It's like you believe in the system, and you're here day one and you want to participate. Like this is the incentivizer.
Let's see if it comes back. But also, we're coining it here now while I have everybody here. It's We Are All the Essay, but it's also We Are All the Sloth address. That'll be the name for everybody who owns it. Yeah, we'll give him a second to come back, and then we'll keep talking about the We Are All the SA. Let's see. Man, it's so awesome to see so many viewers. Thank you, everybody who has stopped by. You know, I'm very humbled by this awesome chat. I'm really sorry I haven't been interacting with you guys. Let's see. Up and we are back.
Yeah, I hope this is going to be a recurring theme, isn't it?
That's all right. I can stall for you.
Yeah. It must be like, let it be known, Spectrum sucks.
We're all the SA.
Yeah, we're all the SA. So the fun part about it is it's effectively a Hedron stake, kind of, right? It performs the same idea as like you throw some funds in and you get Icosa yield. So how that works is it can be ETH, WETH, so wrapped ETH, USDC, Hex, Hedron, or Maxi. Those are the accepted currencies. You throw those in that pool, and it's a lot like the Hex adoption amplifier. You don't get those back, but what you're effectively doing is you're buying an NFT. So it's this code, it's in the contract, you run it yourself. You can only mint your own NFT. No one can mint it for you. No work from others, that kind of thing. So you get this NFT, and what this NFT does is it accrues Icosa yield. So it gets what's written into the NFT is like how many stake points did this have, which is based upon what you bought it for. So, like for example, like $1 worth of something is roughly 1 million stake points. So you have 1 million stake points, and let's say that's like 10% of all. Like only $10 went into it, and you get 10% a day. Yeah, I know, right? That'd be great. So, but you would get 10% of the yield every day that happens in this pool, and it's isolated from the Hedron and Icosa staking pools. It's its own.
But it's the same amount.
Yeah, but it's the same amount exactly. So, like, let's say there's 10,000 Icosa every day going into that pool. Well, you're going to get 1,000 Icosa. That NFT is going to accrue 1,000 Icosa every day.
Yep.
And the beautiful part about We're All the SA is after 14 days, you can't create them anymore. Like the ability to do that is removed. So you have this like 14-day window where you can create these NFTs, and then afterwards, no one can make them anymore, which means you can't be diluted, right? After 14 days, no one can eat more shares of the pool because you can't create any more shares in the pool. But here's the tricky part. This thing's accruing 1,000 Icosa per day, and you want that Icosa. Well, you have to burn your NFT. You have to destroy it, which means it won't earn yield anymore. It's just poof, gone. But you did get your yield. So what this is kind of like a crypto game of chicken or King of the Hill, where
you describe it as like a reverse hourglass game, something like that.
Yeah, reverse hourglass game. That's a good idea. That's a good analogy. So everyone's in there. They want to stay in as long as possible because they want as much yield as possible. But at some point, they're going to want to cash out. And when they do, they can't go back. They can't go back into the pool. So what that means is like, okay, they cashed out, but because their shares are poof gone, everyone else's yield just went up because now they all own bigger percentages of the pool. So eventually there'll be one guy standing, like one last man standing, who's getting 100% of pool yield.
And he can't get it unless
he ends it. But he'll be getting all of it. So will he end it? I don't know. Like those are questions. But so it's like this like time. It's like an adoption amplifier that's like time delayed, and you choose the time. The longer you wait, the more it'll accrue.
Yeah, I really like that system, and this is something I think I also talked about on Cryptographic Stream, and specifically it was in the context of like, will this pull ever end? Will that last person actually burn their NFT? And I actually don't think so. I think these We Are All the SA NFTs will last forever because fundamentally they're a productive asset that can be collateralized against. Like just like with the Hex stakes, we know guaranteed that the next day it will have more Hex than the previous day. We know that these NFTs will have more Icosa the next day, but with Hex, the variability and the amount of payout comes with the number of shares in the system. So, and as well as how much Hex has been inflating. So the payout per t-share can go up. With this, you never get diluted at all as long as you stay in. And so you almost kind of know that eventually like your payout is going to be more and more over time as other people are going to be burning their NFTs because there is incentive to burn your NFT, and that is increasing your relative position in your Icosa staking pool, because this is another way to add principal to that stake that may have accrued in a crazy amount of Icosa because of the limited number of people participating in it, as well as not being diluted over time.
Yeah,
And so this would be
exactly.
great to, yeah, go ahead.
And like it's just such a fun like idea, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
No, it's fun.
Like
It's like
yeah. It's like
getting
who
to
can
participate.
last the longest.
Yeah, exactly. And the person who does makes out with a bunch of money, but not really, because you can't cash it out on it unless you sell
Yeah.
your NFT.
Yeah, and like the I don't know. Like I think my favorite part about it is like you can sell the NFT, right?
You don't have to
Like
burn it.
yeah, like you could be like, okay, well, it's got like X amount of Icosa, it's worth this much. I don't want to ruin the NFT and burn it,
Mhm.
but I'll sell it. Maybe I'll take a discount on it, right? Because it doesn't have to get burnt. And there might be someone who missed out who wants that.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, and not just that, you could, with the same thing I was saying before, how people are incentivized to burn it to add to their Icosa stakes. That's a legitimate strategy too. Make some smaller ones that you let accrue over time, and then you kind of, blow them up to get your Icosa so that you can increase your position in the other pool.
Yeah. Yeah, like and it just adds into the circular systems, right? Like we were talking about, like all the actions that people make in different things kind of influence the positivity of the other ones that are less popular.
Yeah.
And it'll be a nice fun little balancing act that people will have to do on their own, but for those who understand the protocols and how they interact with each other, like there'll be a lot of options for you just for staking hex.
Yeah,
like that's
exactly.
The best part about it.
And the theme of my advice generally is kind of do what you think is best. Like extract value from whatever part of the system like best fits your personality, your investing thesis, your sensibilities, like whatever it might be. Like there are ways to take advantage of the system, as simple as staking hex, minting Hedron, staking Hedron, ending that stake and staking Icosa. Like if you just want to take the freemium route, that's perfectly valid. If you want to maximize value to like get a bigger relative stake in some other pool, that's also a really great strategy too. There really are no wrong answers when it comes to how you participate.
Yeah, and like that's kind of the fun part, at least for me, is that these are designed in such a way that like we've spent like an hour talking about complicated things. And the reality is, like, a lot of people who are watching this are probably like, I don't understand anything what's happening, what you guys are talking about. But the reality is it's very simple to do. Like, if you go to the app, it's like stake Hedron. Okay, well, I can do that, right? It's like, oh, stake Icosa. I have some of that. I'm going to stake that right now. Oh, this little section, it'll buy my HSI. That makes sense. Like there's simple things, like individually, right? The complexities and how all they interact with each other, but the simplicity of just being able to like click create stake and like you just did that and you're going to get some yield. Like there's kind of something for everybody, and I think that's the best part.
Yep. And I know that's been kind of like a criticism of Hedron and Icosa as well. There's like, well, system is just too complicated. Like, how is anybody, this is already a system that's within a niche of crypto, which is a niche in of itself. Like, how are we ever going to get adoption, or like, how are we ever going to get people to come? And to me, that's never made sense, because the system is actually just very simple. It's just you print free money, and then you just keep printing free money until you want to sell it for cash.
Yeah, I mean, more or less. Like if you want to super simplify it, right? Well, you know what we can do if we want to prove that point is I can show the new test net.
Let's do it.
Some people have seen it. Let me. Do you want to do it, or do you want me to do it?
You do it so you can control it, so you can go kind of what you want to show.
Let me make sure I can get this wallet added real quick, because gotta set up a throwaway.
Yes, ultra rare tradable NFTs that only go up in value over time, with real assets backing its value and growing daily. Yep.
I hope that's a more popular thing moving forward. Like instead of like pictures are cool. I think the picture side of NFTs are important, right? Like I do think it's overvalued, and I do think it's handled a bit stupidly, but I'd like to see more I don't know, just more like ways people are injecting value into NFTs to make them not just some undecentralized link to a picture.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the way I describe it to people who kind of don't understand or like who aren't in crypto, it's like the art that you see on an NFT, it's like the cover page of a book. But the real interesting thing is like what's inside the pages of the book, the content of that book. You know, no one's going to a bookstore to buy a book that has a cool cover page that has a bunch of empty pages. But the cover, if it sticks out, will incentivize people to at least open it up. And actually, are there any news on that? I know there's been talks behind the scenes of like artwork for these what's the NFTs. How's that process been going?
So Icosa will like most likely just launch with something generic because I'd like the what's NFTs to kind of be unique. Like the Hedron NFTs are all the same, right? And that's kind of done specifically for those because if you let people change the artwork of those in the collection itself, then like you can get banned from OpenSea if they do something stupid. And I would rather have those stakes not get banned. But with the We're All the Essay, right? Those NFTs, like after 14 days, like they're fixed. It's like there's never going to be more. So basically my plan is to launch with generic art. And then after that closes and we know, okay, there's like 1,400 whatever specific amount of NFTs, then I know, okay, I just need that many pictures. Maybe a little extra. And the thing I haven't decided is whether I'm just gonna randomly assign them to people or whether I'll make an interface where you can pick one. I'd like to do the pick one thing if possible, but I'm not gonna delay it for a month or two just because that would be nice.
That makes sense. And also I've seen this question in the chat a little bit. Yes, all of this stuff will be copied on Pulse Chain. Everything that happens on the Ethereum side of Icosa, once Pulse Chain launches, you get 1-for-1 copies. So double the Icosa, double the Hedron, double the Hex, all of that good stuff. Just an announcement, there is a Q&A after we finish. We'll probably do it right after we finish this kind of walkthrough of the testnet to see how simple everything actually is. And then we'll bring up some special guests in the community and we'll just do like a cool chat Q&A. I'll pick questions from the chat. But everybody, this has been really awesome so far. I appreciate it. The viewership has been incredible and a lot of fun.
How many? So, I actually can't see like how many people we got.
300. Right now. We've had solid 300 people the whole time. Yeah,
that's awesome. All right, well, I got testnet pulled up, so let's let's
go ahead, share it. I'll pull it up.
Let me let's do
soon.
This one soon. All right. So this is testnet. The actual this is app.icosa.pro. That's the URL. It's semi-functional on Ethereum too. So this Hex app and this Hedron app, which I can click here, these will both work on Ethereum right now. So if you want to use this instead of go.hex.com or instead of the Hedron dApp, you can do that. The only thing missing right now is this Hedron dApp does not have borrowing or liquidations yet. Those will be added. Those are very complicated, unfortunately. So getting that code converted and in a way that works a little nicer, that's going to take a little time. But the Icosa portion, right now I'm on testnet, but like if I come in here and switch to Ethereum, just to show you what you'll see, it's going to tell you that the network's unsupported. So, but let's swap back to Pulse Chain. So we have here Hex, Hedron, and Icosa all in one web page. And this could be expanded upon in the future. There could be more things here for us all to use, but those are the three we're going to start with. So Hex is pretty similar to what you're experiencing with Hex or go.hex.com. There's a few little interesting Hedron bits here. So as you can see, I've got 1,000 liquid Hex. So let's create yeah, right. Testnet. So let's come here and I can click max hex to get that, but let's make a smaller one. Let's do like 150 hex. We'll do a 5555. And what I can do with stake type is I can pick native. So this is like a go.hex.com stake, can't move to a different wallet, all that stuff. Or I can pick the HSI encapsulated. So I have the choice here on which one I do. We'll go ahead and make this one HSI encapsulated. And go ahead and approve this. You guys can't see my MetaMask, so it'll just be invisible to you, but we're going to confirm that and wait for a few seconds for that transaction. It's always the fun part, waiting, right? All right. So there it is. So this, now I made that HSI, right? So it doesn't show up here in this list because I'm on the Hex app. But if I go to the Hedron app where I can see HSIs, I can see it's right here at the bottom, this 150 hex stake.
Yep.
So I have a couple stakes here. Do I have any tokenized ones? They'll be down here at the bottom. No tokenized ones. So that's like the first little nice thing about the Hex app is you have the choice. You can also come in here and you can mint your Hedron. So I could come here and do this and just mint that Hedron, and we could use it. I have no Hedron right now, so maybe I'll do that. But I'm going to do a different thing. I'm going to use the mint all button. A lot of people like the mint all button.
Man, here we go.
So the real game changer. The mint all button is not as nice as everyone wants it to be. They want it to be one transaction. It is going to still be multiple transactions. The difference is that instead of you having to like come down here, click actions, click mint for every single stake, it will just automatically do them all for you. So it'll just be one transaction after the other. And we'll mint all these. So I'm going to approve these 2 transactions because only 2 of these have mintable. It'd be nice if you could see the MetaMask window, but it's like security doesn't allow you to do that. So you can see everything's grayed out. We're just going to wait for those transactions to go through, and then it'll come back. But yeah, so now I got my 99.34 Hedron, super whale.
Yeah, super whale times 2.
Right. So that's basically the Hex app. You can, good accounting on this one. That one's already been good accounted. You got end stake. It'll tell you, oh no, don't do that because you're going to lose money. Pretty standard stuff. The Hedron app, which currently, like I said, is missing borrowing and liquidations, is full functional. So I have some HSIs here. So let's go ahead and tokenize some of these. Sorry, I had to cough.
You're good.
So we're going to tokenize that one. Yeah, sometimes Pulse Chain seems really fast, and then other times
not so much.
When you're streaming, right?
When you're streaming, it's taking forever.
Yeah,
that's all right. The real thing will be really fast.
Yeah,
it won't be a problem.
It's always great when it's fast. So we've got that tokenized stake here. You can see it just moved from. It didn't actually move from the top because sometimes Pulse Chain screws up the events. So I'm gonna refresh. So there we go. It moved down. We'll do one more. I don't need to do all these. But this is going to be useful for the Icosa app.
I don't know. Something about tokenizing the stake. I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's
I used it recently to give a hex stake as a gift to one of my good friends for their wedding present. I'm like, man, this is really cool. Like I just gifted a hex stake to somebody, and it was super easy. I don't know. Just it was understanding it intellectually, but then using it pragmatically. It was being on both sides of those was really cool.
Yeah, I think it's super useful for the gift idea, right? It's better than Liquid Hex because they could just let us hand that. So the HSI idea is someone's birthday, you want to give them a 60, 90 day, 5555, whatever. That might be a little too commitment. If they're not super in a blockchain,
I gave my friend a 15-year one, and I was like, yeah. So when I made this, it was $100. It's $40 now. Happy wedding. And thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's you're welcome. You'll thank me later.
You probably will. You never know.
Well, they can sell it now.
Hex goes to $10. Yeah.
They're chilling.
So this is the Icosa app. This is the part you guys all really care about. So some added things. If you want to be able to add the token to MetaMask, you just click these. I wish you could see my MetaMask just popped up. Do you want to add Icosa? It's no, I don't right now. But you click these token icons anywhere, they'll add it to your MetaMask. So that's a feature. I already have some stakes here on this throwaway account, but we can do some things with this first. So let's go down to let's go to HSI buyback. So I've got 2 HSIs right here that have been tokenized. So I want to sell these for Icosa. I can see I'm going to get 21.47 total. So I'll click sell all. same number, and that does the same thing the Mint all does. It will go through and give. In this case, it'll give me 2 transactions, but it's going to sell those to the Icosa contract.
No, enter Icosa whale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see these disappearing as I've approved those. And I'm adding Icosa here.
Nice.
So there we go. 21.47 Icosa. So this particular stake, I can see like the whole pool size is 66.46 billion points. This is how much of the pool I own. This is the yield bonus I'm currently getting. I want to add this 21 Icosa there. So I'm just going to click max. And that's not going to, so on my new minimum stake days, like I have 89 remaining. That's going to get reset to 90 because I'm adding. It resets those stake days. But what this does is it increases my my amount of stake points without affecting my previous yield. So I can keep my old points and just increase that and get more yield as the days come.
And for those that don't know, every time your points are calculated, it's divided by the T-share rate. So so even if you give the same amount of Hedron or Icosa, you'll get less points over time, which is why it's important which is why older stakes maintain their points and their relative position versus if you end stake and then restake, you'll get diluted automatically.
Yeah, because you get those initial points based on the hex share rate when you created the stake, right?
Yep.
And like these new points you're adding, well, they're going to be using the new share rate, but you're keeping your old ones, so you're able to just make your stake bigger without having to end it. The downside is you do reset your minimum stake days. So if you only have 1 day remaining, well, now you'll have 30, 60, 90, whatever those end up being. But it will tell you, like if I come in here and I put some outrageous number here, like you can see this increasing, so I could do that.
That's good.
I also have this little bit of Hedron here, so I'm going to add that as well. Get my extra yield.
Hell yeah.
The extra yield 99 Hedron gives me. If you guys can't tell, this wallet's a whale.
You know, when Hedron is a dollar, you'll be just fine. You'll have a whole $100, man. You could get like a whole 3 dinners at that point.
Well, if I end this stake too early, then maybe I won't. So eating my principal. So yeah, and if you ever want to see the stats of ending the stake, right, you can click end stake. It doesn't immediately do it, but it tells you, hey, I'm going to get nothing back because I've not served any days, right, of my minimum. This isn't always true. So there's one case, like if you just create the stake, like you just made it today, and you're like, I want to change it. You can end it on the day you create it. It will still give you back your principal. But if you're adding and it's resetting, like, it's 100% loss because you just added and now you're at like max minimum days. But I can see what my penalties would be and all that kind of stuff going through there. Perfect. This is where all the essay. Yep. Where all the essay is super cool. You can come in here and mint these NFTs. Right now on testnet, you can only use USDC. But let's go ahead and make another one. I don't know how much USDC I have. Do I have 50? Nope. 45. 30. Oh, I got 30.
Hey.
Right. 30 USDC. So we're going to go ahead and make this NFT. Gotta love those throwaway wallets. But yeah, in this case, like just remember, you don't get this. Whatever you put in here is back. You don't get this crypto back. You're just going to get the NFT and the yield. You're buying the NFT effectively from the contract. So there it is. There's my 401. There's 456 NFTs. But I can see my newest one is token ID 514, which means people have been ending these and removing some yield and probably putting it up here in the Icosa pool.
Fancy.
So I can see that. I can see how many Icosa it's accrued. If I want to like send this to another address, I could do that. I come in here, paste in wallet address, send it somewhere else. If you want to see more stats, I can redeem it. It'll tell me exactly what you're going to get, all that stuff. So
perfect.
super easy.
That's it.
Yeah, like that's Icosa.
Awesome.
All these complicated things we talked about. Pretty easy to use.
Yeah. Now, Alex, before we get into the Q&A part, there is a special announcement at the end of the stream. Would you like to disclose that?
Let's go to Twitter. I want to
Oh
see something
man.
real quick. If my web browser is going to work. All right. I want to say something real quick because
Mhm.
I was originally going to save this to the end of the stream, but I told everyone, hey man, if you guys get this tweet to 200 likes, maybe I'll announce the Icosa launch date. It's 839 likes. That's a lot of likes. That's crazy. But I have to tell you, I said 200. 839 is not 200. It's a different number. Didn't
That's
do what I
true.
said. No, I'm fucking with it. The plan
The rug
is
doctor has
to
come.
the plan is to launch Icosa this coming Monday UTC. So like that's like Sunday 8 p.m. like EST, which is my time zone. So like on that Monday when it becomes midnight UTC time, that's the plan that the contract for Icosa goes live. The only thing that changes that is if like some crazy thing happens with Pulse Police. Like they've been looking at the code for a few weeks. They're supposed to be done any day now, so I'm not foreseeing any issues. But that's like the only thing that would make me delay it is if there was some kind of big deal. But spoiler alert: the people who in Pulse Police have been looking at this code for months. They're very familiar with it. They just haven't made a final thing yet. So we all kind of know each other
There we
fairly
go.
personally, so we talk a bunch. So like, I'm not expecting that to be an issue.
Perfect.
But yeah,
Well, there you guys
Monday.
have it. Monday or Sunday, 8 p.m. EST, whatever that is for your time zone. We have Icosa launching in less than a week. So for all 358 of you guys who stuck around till now, there's your big alpha right there.
Someone said Pulse Police did a thing. I'm gonna look.
Oh, hey.
Oh, you guys can only see my Twitter, but I'm in Telegram right now. That's kind of a weird thing. But let's. I just want to check real quick.
See,
sweet
live updates from Pulse Police. It's good?
Yep, it's good. No red flags.
Hey, all right. Well, it looks like Sunday is gonna be the day, or Monday, whatever.
Yeah, Monday's the day.
Yep. All right. Well, without further ado, let's bring on our guest, and we'll talk for 15 to 45 minutes, whatever, until we get tired. So first, if you have spent any time in the Icosa voice chat, you have seen this guy around dropping some mad alpha. Gifford, what is up, buddy? Good to see you. This guy over here did me the honors of bringing me on stream, one of the first guys to do it, and talked Hedron and Icosa with me and Blue for several hours. Identity Block, Hex OG of OGs.
Hey, guys.
What's up, man? Mr. Game Theory himself, the game developer, Mr. Crypto Kool-Aid. And then finally, the man, the mustache, the guy with the guns, your daily dose of crypto, Jim Rat Crypto. What is up? Oh, you're muted, bud. Yeah, there it is.
That stash came pretty quick, though.
This is the most incredible chat I've ever been involved in.
Oh, and we got somebody else. Hex OG, Hedron OG, Icosa OG. Well, Blue Bum. But it's saying I need to upgrade my StreamYard. Let me do that really quick. You guys start talking.
Well, I'm trying to Silver, check your fucking Twitter. Trying to get him on air too. But tip of the hat, Alex. Like, you slay. Not only top of that, you are a genuine good human and actually do things without recourse by yourself. It is so refreshing to have that. And that's why I always, call, and all the people that are fam appreciate the fact that a real person does real things by themselves, for the people, by the people, with the people. We are not me, we are we. So again, tip of the hat, Alex.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Like it was really hard at first, right? Because like everyone thinks you're just some douchebag.
Dude, I went to war for you. I would still go to war with you for you anytime, because you made the first POT, or proof of T-share. And not only did you do that, you did it for free. And we just did another Pac-Man eaters on there, which would be Icosa. And what we're doing on top of that, because wrapping an idea that builds on idea is the same example of the seesaw with two kids. And again, You slammed it, sir. So again, tip at the top.
Yeah, thank you.
Alex, I have a question. I
Yep.
want to know. Okay, so as somebody who's new-ish to crypto, I'm like 2 years in. I understand a lot of the nuanced detail now, but again, I'm not all the way there. Okay, like I know that for certain, but there is a level of having to trust the person that's doing the project, and you've just held that standard like a boss, like a fucking boss, because you never asked for more than you were working for. You were working the whole entire time, and I could feel it. You know what I mean? I could feel it. I could feel like you were working and you wanted to make something happen. So how did you actually decide? How did you go? Because come on, like, let's be honest, you don't seem like a complete extrovert. So you were probably a little bit nervous about the backlash of a lot of these crazy motherfuckers. I mean, at the end of the day, they're wild motherfuckers. They're self-sovereign, crazy guys. How did you break through that to get to this point, to the point where even RH said, this guy writes good code, and I would take a look at this for the most part? That's a wild gap.
That's a wild statement, and it's accurate as fuck. Correct.
I don't even know, really. Like, at the end of the day, like, I was a Hexicant. I was invested in Hex. I wanted to, I wanted these things to exist in some form. And I was just like, well, Richard will eventually do it, or someone will do it, right? It'll be simple. And then like a year and a half went by, nobody did it. And I'm like, okay, well, I know how to write code. We'll give it a shot. So I just did it. And I told a few people that were close to me in the community, a few Hex admins, like they probably knew about Hedron 6 months before anybody else. And I'm just like, hey, this is the thing I want to do. And majority response was this probably stupid, I don't know, people think it's a scam, all this stuff, right? And I'm like, yeah, probably, but like, it's immutable, right? Just write it, put it out there, and if people use it. And it's kind of surreal. You look at like Deck Screener or whatever, and you're like $600,000 in liquidity pool, and I'm like, that's cool. I wrote some code, and some dudes are putting 600,000 USDC in a liquidity pool on it. It's like there's some surreal aspects to it for sure.
How did you get to the point where you felt confident enough in yourself? I mean, come on, dude. Yeah, what does the Telegram have? 8,000 people in it to 10,000 people? Like, you've done something
it was like
great.
8,000. It was almost 9,000 for a while, and then I went on a bot hunting spree because like 3 people got scammed out of their Hedron. I was like, all right, we're ending this. So I went through like every single person, went through there and just axed everyone that was only in Hedron, because chances are it's like if you in the first like year of Hedron, if you're just like not also in Hex, you're probably a bot. Not entirely true though, because like some people DM'd me and they're like, hey, can I come back? So not entirely true. But
well, the thing is, like, sir, like again, we've talked, right? We'll talk later tonight too. But like, not only do you take the precipice of building things, you take the time, tenacity, and attentability to actually handle, build, do, and create all on your own dime while you're still working your day job, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, all right. To be fair, my day job is not like 9 to 5. My day job is like, hey, here's some things that need done, and as long as they get done in the next 2-3 weeks, then
yes,
whatever.
you're a beast. We
don't really care.
You're correct. You're
so like that's nice, right? As long as if it's an emergency or like shit's on fire, then yeah, it's like I gotta drop what I'm doing and go fix that problem. But
sure, but look what you did while you were also fixing shit on fire, right? You know what I mean? Like,
fortunately, not too much is on fire these days.
You got a software program that can do that, do you? Stop fire.
Yeah.
The thing is that Alex cloned himself, and then from there he had his own self to be able to build it. But the difference is that I made the moniker way back when that no profit from the work of others who float on top of his head is profit and help others. But Richard also said, if you want something, build it. And Alex said it earlier. If you want to build something, someone's going to do it. All right. Well, he took the tenacity, effort, and buildability to build it. And all the hecklers, I say all of us should try to be good humans. And I've said it before, Alex is the most generous, meek, badass, hard person you can ever have. And look what he's doing for everyone. Anytime I see Team Hedron, I just giggle to myself because like I'm a warlord of what I do in CG. And so like you have smashed it. And what you did is you set the example. The board is exemplary of like what is an RH ecosystem, but not even RH. What is a good human ecosystem? And that is paramount for anyone walking into CG. So again, tip of the hat to you, sir.
But I appreciate it. But just to go back to Jim Rat's question, because I don't think I actually answered it. I didn't really have the like gusto to like be like, all right, we're gonna actually do this. It was really just a lack of like anyone else doing it. I was sick and tired of it, and I was just like, well, I'm gonna do it. And if everyone hates me after I say the code and is out and you can use it or not, it's like it doesn't matter. I'll just disappear from Twitter and the website will still exist and the code will exist. They can use it or they don't use it. I don't care. Fortunately, that hasn't been what happened. Fortunately, the community's grown. It's been great. But
how did you feel when everyone thought that you did not notice, like it just slipped through your paws? This is the whole time where I got my red flags, because my red flags were going for the FUD like right away, because I said this guy did not sit here and think about this for fucking 6 months with his genius buddies and give everyone free coins they would dump forever. I said, can we please dive further? Can we please think more? And everyone to this day in my chat says, it's going to be sold forever. And I literally wish I could block them, because it's like, can you not think further? Imagine if another man sat down for months on end and thought about this concept. You gotta defer to him a little bit. Like you gotta defer a little bit for a guy like me, who's a little bit more new. And I'm like, come on, Alec. Richard says he writes good code. Like, I mean, Richard doesn't say a nice fucking thing about anybody.
That's true.
About anybody. And that slipped through his teeth. I got out of my chair and I walked the other way. I said, it's over. It's over because a B share derivative. I said, I couldn't get over it once I actually learned what was going on. And I had a feeling I was really early. And I don't know what I just said. And I just really appreciate everything.
No, you said it precisely, because actually there was two things before he even knew Alex is Alex. He said one thing: B shares and wrapped NFTs. And I've been talking about wrapped NFTs before I even made Captain's background pre-big payday. Alex brought it to the fucking planet, and he did exactly what it was meant to be: wrapped utility that wraps utility.
And also to that, adding to the fact that some of us were already locked up for 2 years. That's something that I don't think I've ever told you, Alex, but it was like, I remember a year ago fighting in main chat about wrapped T-shares, because I remember hearing Kyle, excuse me, guys, hearing Kyle talk in the early days about wrapped T-shares and how that could be a bad thing. And I remember thinking how was that gonna affect us that were already locked in from the start. And props to you, brother, because I don't know how. I mean, that was my thing. I was like, everyone would tell me like, no, we're gonna wrap our T-shirts and then we're gonna be where you guys are. And I was like, well, at that point, I was like, well, we've been here for like a year and a half. What do you mean you're doing that? Like, you're taking them from us. So thank you for that, brother.
Yeah, well, that was a big problem with like tokenized stakes, right? Or like any encapsulated tradable stake, is like you got these people that already have them. And if you just come out of the gates, all right, now they can be NFTs. Well, everyone who already made stakes, so they're screwed, right? They can't participate. So, part of the idea of having the token is like, okay, well, you still can participate. You may not be able to borrow, you may not be able to move your stake around, but you're going to get the most Hedron by far because you've had it for so long. It needs to be a balancing system where everyone's accounted for equally, or else like half the community is alienated and half the community hates it and half the community loves it, which we kind of have now. So I guess maybe it didn't work, but it is people come around like if one of my favorite things for like the people who think it's going to be minted forever, like visualize, like go to go.hex.com and look at the share price, right? Like
Right.
It's up and to the right, right? If you want to know how minting in Hedron works, turn it upside down. It's down and to the right. Right?
What's that
High
called?
inflation, high
saying?
inflation.
That's when it goes
down.
That's when it
chirality, I
clicked
don't
for
know.
me. And also I want to add to what Kool-Aid was saying, because props to you the way you've handled yourself. I know that when you start, you were talking about Hedron from the start. You were getting all this, criticism from the community and all this stuff, and I don't think that it's almost like no one ever stopped then and said, hey, you actually built something really fucking cool, and like no one's giving him props for it. So thank you, Kool-Aid, for saying all that stuff, because I think some stuff's in Spanish and I say it in English, so I wish I could be as eloquent as Kool-Aid. Thank you, brother.
Well, the real thing is that, and this is what I before Icosa, right? And I said this from the bloody beginning, not to quote the game theory guy, but Hedron himself is a caboose on a T-share. They both have to intrinsically understand each other to work. So if it took 2 years for a T-share to build up enough steam for its steam engine to move, Hedron needs some time. It doesn't need anything else, because you can't have a caboose and a steam engine exist in the same frame. That's not how reality works. And
Yeah,
so,
I know. Yeah, I know. Icosa really speeds up the value prop of Hedron, but honestly, I think it would get there on its own. I don't think
I said it before, Sloth. 2 years without a Pac-Man eater. This adds a wrapper on a wrapper, and that's what we're doing now. We're moving in a max. What I call it, carrier pigeon maximal and fax machine maximal and all the rest of that. We're building wrappers on wrappers that can actually accentuate. Remember, fat kid, skinny kid on a seesaw both have a trampoline, and there's an ecosystem on how those move inherently together. And that is the whole point, is you can build a wrapper on a wrapper to use a wrapper to do a wrapper. So it's goddamn fucking brilliant. And that's why, like me and Bluey were talking about it way, way, way back when. It is the next evolution on how this ecosystem can work. But it really is based, again, and that's the one thing I love about you, Alex, is it's all based on a Richard Hart ecosystem based on the sun, which, if you listen to Axis and Me in Wales way back when, is the dueling gravity of what a T-share builds, but it wraps that. And that wrapper can be traded, used, binded, and do other things with, which is brilliant.
Hey, can I ask I've got a couple of questions, Alex.
Go for it, Blue.
And first of all, congratulations on the announcement of the launch. I think everyone's pretty excited. I know I'm pretty excited. I remember talking to you when Hedron came out, and we talked about modeling, and the problems is that because there's so much human behavior that's necessary to know in order for these systems, that you kind of end up having to build assumptions upon assumptions in order to try to model things out. And just coming, like, I'm just really curious, like, how you conceptualize this whole system now. Like, I just started almost like today, I just started thinking about it as a game board, and how you've got these options for these pieces, and you can do this with this piece, or you can do that with this piece, and everything has got its constraints. And so it's about moving things around on the big board. But I'm just curious, like, do you do any Excel sheets? Do you do you draw it out to conceptualize it? Or do you just think it? Like, do you just, especially when like people make suggestions and we say, okay, and then like you came up with a solution, we're going to have to 10x the Icosa yield, or we're going to add bonuses to the Watsu. Actually, that's one thing that you said that it was the same pool for the Icosa, Hedron, and We're All the SA, but in fact that We're All the SA gets more Icosa because that gets a copy of all the bonuses as well. But anyway, I'm curious as to like what the process for you has been, like how you actually do it.
Yeah, so usually at first I it normally starts out like just brainstorming, right? It's like I had most of the idea for Icosa, at least like, okay, we're gonna stake Hedron, and then whatever token we give for staking Hedron, we're going to be able to stake that too, and then we'll somehow get some Hedron into that, right? Like I knew that piece, and it was figuring out the other stuff that made it all come together. Like so initially there's like some brainstorming and figuring that out, and just talking to people, and you know, like people don't realize how helpful they are sometimes. Like people like that I've talked about with Icosa before, because for a while there I was kind of just hinting about it in the Telegram, and I was like, we're gonna call it Hemdrom, and like it's gonna be this meme coin,
Yeah.
right? Like that's how I started out, and like I just talked to people about it, and some people suggest some really stupid things. I can't even remember the things that people suggest, but those stupid things like have some element that they were trying to get to, and I'm like, oh well, you know, like that's not a bad idea if like you cut out the stupidity part, and maybe you could
Actually,
build
can I just cut in there one little bit, because when you first announced this, you called it a meme coin.
Mhm.
Now you had no intentions whatsoever of making a meme coin, did you? Okay,
No.
so that was just trolling us.
Well, you know, if I tell
worked.
everyone it's Icosa and like it's this big deal, everyone's gonna freak out about it, and then like someone's gonna buy the domains or something, and like I'm like, no, we're gonna make it seem stupid and make it seem like it's no one's gonna want to do it, so that the majority of the haters will just ignore it. So
Once I saw you decided like the Icosa name, and I'm like, it goes together too perfectly to have not come up with this beforehand. I was like, he knew this was happening well before we started talking about it in all the chats.
yeah, well, I mean, so starting out though, I mean, eventually after like I get like the core ideas put together, yeah, like 100 sheets of paper taped together on the table, and I just like start drawing connections, and I'm like, nah, that's stupid. No, right, cross that out. You know, and by the 10, you know, it's like my girlfriend comes in and she's like, what are you doing? This is unintelligible. And I'm like,
You're
it
like
makes sense
crazy
to me.
conspiracy guy with like,
Yeah,
like
I'm like
pins
the
of
guy. What's that like? It's always sunny in
The
Philadelphia.
meme has
guy.
all the red tape where they're trying to like map everything
Yeah.
out, like they're a detective but they're not. But yeah,
That's one of my favorite gifts. I send that to people a lot
Yeah.
when they ask me how do I come up with this stuff. But yeah, it's like you do that part first, and then the Icosa contract code is actually a lot more simple than Hedron, because like realistically, where all the SA, Icosa staking, and Hedron staking are more or less copy and paste code, right? Like once you've got the staking part, the logic that handles who gets what and how much of it, the rest of divvying it out is more or less the same. Like there's some minor differences, but where versus in Hedron, every function's entirely unique to itself, so it warrants a lot more work to make sure they all kind of work together. So like on one hand, it was easier to write, but you.
no, we lost him.
Damn.
Well,
Damn.
basically, I'll lab on that. So it's like an HOV lane that someone already built the highway, and because they built the proper highway, the HOV lane is your fast track, because you already know what's going on A, B, and C in the other lanes.
Gifford, why don't you drop some sweet alpha on us, man? You've been going hard in the VC chats lately. What's been on your mind during the stream?
Yeah, no, there's been a lot going on, and thankfully, Alex he's made himself quite available in Telegram, so he has given me a ton of alpha in the last 8 months or so. So I thank him for being there and doing that for me particularly. But some of the alpha that I'm really looking at right now is what kind of action are we going to see in that HSI auctions at day 90? 90 days after Icosa launch, what's it going to look like?
So the real question is the cost of gas versus priming the pump. So like again, if we look at my steam engine to caboose analogy, as you move faster, the big man's back. I'll let him speak.
I mean, you guys go. I missed like half of that.
You know, I can talk forever. Like I can love the proper theory.
We're talking day 91.
Oh, day 91.
The thing is, like, Alex is one of the few people out of all. I have all the OGs and everyone's cell phone numbers. I talk to a lot of people. Alex is one of the few people that I literally had to step back and be like, "Oh shit, dude can actually play," and did it for free, and helped people, and was kind, and maintained the ecosystem. I can't give more of a tip of the hat to that. So no, you guys go play if you ever need. to hop into it.
To answer the chat question, yes, this Sunday, 8 p.m. EST, wherever that is, wherever you are, Icosa should launch. But just to like go back real quick to what I was talking about, there's a thing called Hard Hat. You can simulate blockchains in it. I use it to write all the stuff. You see all the issues there, right? Because you make 1,000 accounts, and those 1,000 fake accounts all do things, and then you see who won and who lost, right? And you can just like write a function that just randomly calls things. It's like, okay, this guy randomly stakes and stakes, and and you can categorize a lot of those addresses like stupid, right? Because they
well, you look for the I suppose you look for the edge cases.
Yeah, and like some of them, like some of the ones were like, okay, well, HSI buyback might potentially suck if like everybody instead of staking goes and sells it on market, right? Because then HSI buyback doesn't give you a lot of tokens. Like before, a T-share might have given you like I think it was 2.4 Icosa or 24, and now it's like 240. So it's just like a little bit of a boost there, but it makes that more lucrative for longer periods of time. Which is just like a safety net, really. Then you have like, I don't know, just like small things, like giving bonuses to the We're All the SA pool because they kind of get shafted a little bit from not having, not getting their principal back, right? So like being able to have that pool get copies of bonuses makes it just a little bit edge out. Like every pool needs to be unique and have its own little game that makes it special. And so like that We're All the Essays is like you can't get in after 14 days and all the bonuses that ever happen, you get copies of them. Icosa staking is you get Hedron. And
I think we should probably just clarify what the bonuses are because they're not the Hedron bonuses. They're the...
Oh, yeah. So in the Icosa protocol, if you stake Hedron or Icosa, if you're like squid or higher, there'll be a 5%, 10%, 15, 20% as you go from like squid, dolphin, shark, whale. They'll get like these bonuses on top of what their normal yield would be that comes out. And you get that. Like if you were going to get 200 tokens and there was a 10% extra yield for you, you get 220 tokens. The We're All the SA pool will get a copy of those bonuses globally. So like 20 Icosa will go into that pool for the day and then get divided amongst all the NFT holders. Same thing for the HSI buyback. So if you put a 5555 stake, you get the Quattro Cinco bonus, which is 10% extra. And then if you have a Hedron like multiplier, so 10x to 1x, if you have that, you'll get a 1% to 10% bonus on your HSI when you sell it in. So those bonuses that happen, the NFT We're All the SA pool gets copies of those. Kind of like the SA does in Hedron.
Hey guys, I got to jump off here. I had some plans a little later. I didn't know how long we'd be going, but thank you so much. I am going to be streaming the Icosa launch live as fuck.
Sounds good.
Fuck.
Awesome,
so
man.
I'm going to be trading in one of my HSI stakes live, and I'm going to be getting some Icosa on my channel Sunday, 8 p.m. Whenever they do it, guys. Make sure you're over there. I'm so excited about all this stuff, guys, and I really do. I think there's better product market fit than some of the other coins that weren't oversold potentially, and or overbought. I mean, and I think when I saw how far it got sold down, I got giddy like a schoolgirl, because you were talking B share derivatives. Man. You're talking a B share. You're talking a B share, right? Like boom, straight up to the B share action. I was all in. Thank you so much, Alex, for everything you do. I pray and hope to God I can get you on my show soon. But yeah,
we should do it soon.
It could be.
We should do it in the morning here soon.
Yeah.
Hey,
Thanks
guys,
for coming on,
thank you
GRC.
so
I appreciate it a lot, man.
GRC, before you pop out, the reason why I love you and both Alex is that you're genuine, kind, and good humans. So that is the most important part of what we're doing is building good human things. Same thing with Bluey, same thing with Sloth.
That's how you build beautiful stuff.
Gifford, and then all the hail to you, Identity Block as well. But GRC, get out of here.
Hey, Gifford Ware, great to see you. Blue Bum, Sloth, Alex, Crypto Kool-Aid, Identity Block. Thank you so much, guys. Everybody have a great day. I'm so stoked for Sunday. It's redonkulous.
Yep.
Take care, man. Take care, man.
Guys.
Later, Jersey.
I've got another couple of questions actually. So one of the big questions for me, or part of the game, is okay, I've decided to go into all three pools, but like, what kind of percentage do I leave liquid in order to potentially go into liquidity pools, or liquid hedron after 90 days to buy all of those potential HSIs that are going to be at auction? There's many ways you could play it. You could stake the whole thing for a long time. I'm just curious, what liquidity pools do you think there will be, or what will be the kind of most beneficial for Icosa?
I mean, I think an Icosa hex pool is going to exist no matter what, because of the arbitrage possibilities. Like, someone will make that pool and someone will maintain that pool just because of that. I think an Icosa Hedron pool is highly likely as well. And I'm sure there'll be a USDC one. There's a USDC pool for everything. So, like, those are kind of the three. Like, the USDC pool doesn't do anything for us. It's not beneficial. It's just some people like to be able to look at a chart and be like, okay, it's worth this many dollars, right?
Yeah.
Like, and not have to do math. So it'll exist. Someone will make it. But I think the two that have any kind of like benefits to the game theory are the hex pool and the Hedron pool for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting with the Pulse Chain launch. Like, everyone's been talking about this ratio trading, and I was thinking a lot about it. Like, what is actually ratio trading? And I kind of came to the conclusion. Like, I started just looking at everything in terms of hex, because I thought, okay, hex is the asset that I want over the long term. That's the thing that I think is the base value of all this kind of stuff. And so, if I know everything in terms of hex, then when I go on to ratio trading, I know what the price of anything is because I know it in terms of hex, like before we have a stable coin or whatever. And similarly for like this little trio, like hex, Hedron, Icosa, like it's almost like how do you go about trading within their ratios? Because like the hex Hedron chart is completely different from the Hedron USDC chart.
Yeah, it's like they're basically opposite. Man, it's hard to say because like basically the hex Hedron chart, if you're wanting like the Hedron price to increase, like if that's what you're kind of trying to track, like you basically need to take all TA that you know and flip it upside down. And like people aren't really good at that. You can invert the chart, but it's complicated because even if you revert the chart, like the relationship is still opposite between the two. So, like the best case scenario in a perfect world is that chart's just flat. That we're just like we're going up together and we're going down together exactly at the same ratios. But that's not going to happen in the real world. So I think what you're basically seeing with that chart, and I think the take home is that you're seeing, at least at this point in the market, like Hedron's appreciating at a faster rate than Hex is. And that makes sense because it's super hyperinflationary, or was. And that's mostly over. At least no one new can get into it. And we're kind of like in this zone of correction for like what should the actual value be, right? It got dumped to nothing. Where are we actually going to value this thing is the question the market's asking. So like part of that increase in value is that happening. And that's also incredibly volatile, right? Because it means downtrends are going to be more extreme than in Hex too. So I think if you're looking at this from the
do you think Hedron will be a lead indicator for Hex? I know you've mentioned it before. I was thinking
been in the past.
Yeah, I was thinking when it dumps, it probably is, because before you dump your Hex, you're going to probably dump your Hedron. Well,
yeah,
nowadays,
I think
who
so
knows,
for
eh?
now.
But like,
yeah,
but so
I'd say
maybe
before
that's
this pump for sure, right?
Yeah,
before this
yeah.
pump, that was like people were like, yeah, if I'm going to
That's what
dump something,
happened.
I'm dumping this coin.
Yeah.
So now that we've gone up a little
dumped
bit,
Hex.
yeah.
Real quick, we got a question from Silver. Alex, you hinted on changing stakes on whales. Can you expand, please?
Changing stakes on whales.
Sure.
I might be missing the context.
Yeah, post that again, Silver. And here's one more. We'll just post that up.
Well, actually, I've got a couple of other questions as well. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do this one and then Blue, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's do you know of anyone making a contract to make a joint stake to create a whale pot for many people like the Maxi one?
I don't know of anything yet. I think, if that's something that the community wants, like, it'll be very easy to do.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the most
what you
brilliant
said
things
before.
about the wrapping aspect of what you build, Alex, is that like when you have a wrap on a wrapper on a wrapper, as long as it's built correctly, you can ratchet it up. Like Bitfinesse, our mother trucker, understands that you can split a gear and go from 1 to 5 to 5 to 15, right? You know what I mean? So you're splitting gears to build forward, and as long as the foundation is correct, you can build on that foundation and whip it further, lengthen it, straighten it, and do all the rest of that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, and quick question on the pools, Alex. Bringing that up, isn't there a different game to be played when you're dealing with a stake that has no end date, and also have the ability to add to that stake, that a pool might be broken in that scenario?
Am I missing the question? Maybe you cut out.
Yeah. So like for, comparing to like Maxi, where everyone can pool their funds together in one larger pool.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody was, interested in doing that, does it not work as well with the Icosa system as it would with, say, Hex?
So there's two parts. So, like, on one hand, it would work better because the end date on that hex stake means there's a finite life to Maxi, right? Like 15 years, the token, like, you can technically still trade it if you haven't redeemed it yet, but the only purpose that token has after that stake is served is to
Sentimental
get the hex.
value.
Yeah, right. So, like, the only purpose is redeem it. Like that's just how that is. So any value now is just speculation on what that will be. Versus with Icosa, if you were going to build some pooled stake, right? Well, you would be in a position where you could have people adding to the pool and getting more of this whatever derivative stake token is, right? So it's kind of like you're really just sharing the fact that this stake was created a long time ago, and that you're also sharing the fact that it will get a 20% bonus, right? Most likely, if it has a very large stake in it. I don't think it'll break anything because, like, yes, it will be created a long time ago. It'll have a better share rate, but anything they're adding, like the new points added, still are maintained with the new share rate. Like you don't get to reuse your old share rate for the new points added on top of your old ones. So there's a little bit of diminishing returns there for gigantic stakes. And then additionally, like, they have to end it at some point, right? Like at some point, whatever DAO is in here has to vote to, like, okay, we want our yield, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just as a question, Alex, just so I understand the mechanics of it. When you start the stake with this infinity line, you don't specify the date. You just eventually say, I can end at particular time, or do you have to specify a date to time to start the engine going? For example, if I fill up a tank of gas in my car, I got 300 miles. Now I could fill up at half a tank, which is a smart way to do it, or I could fill up at 3 miles till I'm running out of fuel. So, like, how would that mechanism be to kind of answer that question?
So you do not specify a time, right? You just say, I want to stake this many coins, and then the contract will tell you, hey, you can stake this many coins, but this is how many days your minimum is to serve, right? You can go beyond that and you'll still earn yield, and you can end it without a penalty at any point after that. But if you end it in that minimum, you do get a penalty. So you can let that go forever. But what will happen is because, like, imagine day one, we create 1,000 stakes, right? And we'll just make it easy. Everyone has to serve 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going on, like day 89 comes, right? You're about to end your stake. Well, you're one guy. All 999 other people, they all added to their stake on that day.
Mm-hmm.
So they all got reset. They're now 90 days minimum again because they increased their points. You didn't. So you can end on day 90. But you just got diluted because you decided not to add. So like the adding is a feature for people who believe in it and they want to be long term. Like you can climb the staking ladder over time, and you're going to have this penalty of your minimum stake days is going to constantly reset every time you do it, but you'll climb the ropes, so to speak, versus someone who just has to actually let it go all the way to the end because they do want to end it. Like over that time, they are going to get diluted. And real quick to answer Silver's question, like the only adjustment I think I might make, someone brought up, was like technically shark days should be 270 instead of 240 because they're all 90 days spaced. And I was like, yeah, okay. I mean, that wasn't the math I did when I made it. I was like what's like 3/4 of 360? Okay, 240, and then but like, yeah, it makes sense. Maybe I'll change that. But I don't
Actually,
I mean 270 is an even fucking quarter of 360 in CG terms. But
yeah,
I think that's a good place to go to Gifford with his little champagne strategy that he was talking about in the chat, talking about ending stakes and dilutions. You want to share that with us, man?
Sure. Yeah, no, it's just been something I've been playing with. But yeah, I gave the metaphor of, you're at a wedding and the bride and groom are pouring their champagne on the top glass and it kind of spills back down to all the other glasses, right? Maybe one strategy, instead of, in order to do a staking type ladder with this system, would look like something like 5 separate wallets, right? You have one wallet that you max out your 30-day on. Like you add one more Icosa, it's going to bump you to 90-day, and you just get right below that. Then you have a second wallet, your 90-day, and so on and so forth, all the way up to your whale wallet. And that whale wallet is where all your extra goes towards. That's your long-term play. So that was kind of what I was kicking around to see if that would have any legs.
Nothing would stop you from doing that. Like the only real consequence of doing it is if you are like a whale and then you decide, okay, well, I want to do this ladder thing. Well, you're gonna have to resolve yourself to not be a whale, right? You're gonna have to be like a shark, a couple sharks or a couple dolphins, right? Because you're gonna have to break your coins up. Now, if you're some mega super whale that has like enough coins to like make 5 whale wallets, then sure, yeah, go for it. But
well, remember Roy, RG way back in the day said that he made a whole bunch of stakes so he could nuke them at half, and if the hex is at like that precipice, then he can nuke those things and take them back and be like, guess what? I just paid you all the reserve bonus for actually having that. You can theoretically do that into a DAO and then have multiple running ladders that theoretically the DAO could unroll. But this is the beauty about wrapping on wrapping. You can build on top of it. You have to think about it like a TI-80 calculator and where we came from when we were in like OG, high school, to now that we have programmable code that sends money. It's wildly entertaining on what you can build with the proper utility to wrap.
To answer the chat question, you can have as many NFT stakes as you want. The limit of 1 per address was removed for that particular thing. So that's basically just because people didn't want the idea. Well, what I realized was people were going to make mini wallets for We're All the SA if I didn't do that, right? They were going to make 100 wallets and have all these different We're All the SA things because they want to be able to end them at different times. And that was much more prevalent there than it was in the other pools because the other pools have the whale bonuses and so on. So I was like, well, if they're going to do that anyway, I might as well just make their lives easier. So the NFT stakes, they can, you can have as many as you want. You can make as many as you want. You can buy as many as you want, hold as many as you want in one wallet. Doesn't matter. They'll all show up there. They all accrue yield.
And
Nice.
do they
That's
start
awesome.
accruing yield day 1, like day 2 the yield starts, or is it day 15?
Yes, so they'll day 1. So like if you
Day
make the NFT on like Sunday, right when the day change happens, or Monday, technically, if you make it then on Tuesday when the day reset happens, those NFTs will have yield.
I don't think you have to stake the NFTs to get yield. I think they're just entitled to it once you burn it, correct?
Yeah, so you're it's effectively adoption amplifier, right? You're giving up ETH, WETH, Hex, Hedron, Maxi, USDC. You're giving up those coins. You do not get them back, and you're getting an NFT in exchange. So you're buying the NFT, and the NFT just on its own life will just accrue yield. Whoever holds it,
Mhm.
if you send it to someone else, the yield goes with it. But to actually get the yield, to actually tangibly get the ERC20 tokens, you'll have to burn the NFT.
Um, mhm. Let's see. Any
Yeah,
other
and
questions?
then just real quick, just leading into the whole different wallet addresses that I was trying to get at is essentially when I was talking about that 90-day mark, like day 91, right? I think if we're ever going to see an early onslaught of basically a Hedron supply shock, I think it might be around that time zone where there's a lot of people not only just trying to pick up HSIs on the cheap in the auction, but also those people who have sold their HSIs, maybe are somewhat emotionally attached to, and maybe they're going to try to win those back, right? And so if there's a lot of Hedron that is staked long term past 90 days, and even the Icosa staked that is going to earn Hedron past 90 days, that maybe that might be a strategy to, okay, I accept the idea that I'm going to be diluted in the exchange of being a more active player in those auctions.
Yeah. So like this is, I'm just kind of like guesstimating here. Like this is just what I think will happen. But I think the supply metrics will demand Icosa has a relatively high price compared to Hedron. And because of that, I think people will be likely to emergency end stake their Hedron stakes. So I think you're going to see like day 15, right? Where like there's that 30-day window where only the HSI buyback guys technically get to go in. I think you'll see people emergency end stake their Hedron stakes at day 15 because
And
they want to take the Icosa out that they would get
And stake
and
it.
put it
and
in the
remind
That
us
would be
what happens
that
to
would be
the
a
fees with the fees if you
So
remove the end state.
so the Icosa is distributed to all pools equally, and the Hedron, 50% of it is burnt, so it will become Icosa later, and then the other 50% of it is given to the Icosa stakers.
Mhm.
So if like a bunch of people emergency end stake Hedron stakes, like Icosa stakers are going to get a bunch of Hedron, and everyone will get Icosa. We'll get more Icosa for that.
Nice.
yeah. Where is it?
I'm in it for the mad yield personally, so
Same.
It's gonna be interesting because I think the degen pool will be the Hedron pool. I think that's where you'll see people doing like crazy things. I think for a long time people will just try to stuff as much Icosa as they can into the Icosa pool, and then the We Are All the SA guys, like they're gonna be sitting there initially. Like I think the Icosa pool people will probably laugh at the We Are All the SA guys. Like if these are people fictionally, like they're pointing laughing at We Are All the SA because like they're getting more yield for a while for the couple like 30, 40 days, just because there's not enough Icosa to go around for that to be a huge like diversified pool. But then like We Are All the SA pool, once those pools fill out, like the We Are All the SA guys are just going to be like raking it in because like no one can mess with them. Like
Yeah.
they're locked.
and the super interesting point. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Blue. Go ahead.
No. I was going to have something completely different. Go on.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna mention a really super interesting part with the Watts NFTs is right now. I hope we're kind of emerging out of this bear market, right? But we're gonna see more bear markets in the future. And the real question is how long, like how diamond hands are these NFT holders gonna be when we start seeing some blood in the streets again? And how many are gonna survive through that?
Yeah, it'll be crazy to watch. So like I think there will be people who like lettuce hands exist everywhere. Even the most diamond of hands occasionally experience times of lettuce hands. It's just like
Yes, sir.
it's like the NFTs are an extra case because like normally if you're gonna be like this diamond handed person who one day just wakes up and's like, I'm not feeling it today, I'm gonna sell. Well, this is one thing you sell and it can never get back. There's a fundamental truth.
I think the
Well,
funny part is like the old meme of we are in here for the tech. and this is actually the tech built on tech, built on tech, built on
Yeah.
tech. Basically, what the real meme is about is building and folding an ecosystem to do it. I know Bluey had a question. Sorry to pop in.
So, have you thought about much what the SA could possibly do? Have you thought about what the OA could possibly do? And even because I invited him on Twitter today, the God Whale. Hi, God Whale, if you're watching. Of like what one of those big players. Like what are some of the moves that they could kind of do with this launch?
Well, it's like these are 3 very special addresses, right? I'm not entirely convinced any 3 of them particularly care about money, right? Like they all have a high number of value, or very big number of value. Godwell is the most diversified, so he probably has the most options, right? He could figure out a way to go into all 3 things fairly heavily. The OA could do HSI buybacks like crazy and go into the pool. The OA also has a lot of Hedron, but like, if you look at it from the scale of like who's the most limited, like the SA is the most limited in terms of everything outside of Hedron, right? So it can realistically really only do Hedron things. So it could go into the Hedron pool. It could do We're All the SA. The Hex OA mostly has Hex, so it's more likely to give up Hex. So if it's going to do anything, it's probably going to do HSI buybacks, or it has. I guess that's really all it can. I guess it can go into the We're All the SA pool too, right? But Godwell can do all of them because he's got a lot of ETH, and ETH is like the universal thing. So he's got a lot of Hedron, he's got a lot of Hex, a lot of ETH. So he's really like the king here in this scenario, because Godwell can do whatever it wants, go into any pool it wants.
Let's see. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I've got plenty.
Go ahead.
So just call on me if it gets quiet.
Yeah.
I got you. There's one question I was meaning to get to you for so long, Alex. I was super pumped. There was this day, I don't know, it was several months back. It was after Hedron launched, and you were in Twitter Spaces, and RH jumped in, and you guys had a quick little chat there, right? And I'm super interested to know, because it sounded so well calculated, and I listened to it multiple times. I'm curious if you had questions ready to go, like you knew you would eventually be speaking with him, and you needed to be prepared, or was that off the whim? And what did you take from that whole conversation?
It's like I kind of went in there with like this mindset of like, well, Richard gets asked the basic stupid.
No,
right in the middle. We got rugged. That's a question only he can answer too. None of us can hop in and help him out. We'll take him out, and
That must have been. It must be Combot just kind of coming in and
yeah,
cutting it off.
That was not meant to happen.
Oh man. But yeah, thanks for hopping on, guys. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciated it. A lot of stuff to talk about. If anybody has any questions in the chat, go ahead and drop them. Let's see, is he back? No. Oh wait, I think it. There it is. Okay.
Anyway, I went into that discussion with Richard Hart like thinking he probably gets asked basic normal questions by 1,000 people every day. So I was just mostly just asking like kind of indirect, but also, where he would know what I was talking about if he knew anything about Hedron questions. Yeah. Haven't had a ton of interaction with him other than that. Like, we like each other's things on Twitter every once in a while, but that's about it.
Fair enough.
Right,
I was hoping for a more, crazy.
No, it was not that
story.
crazy. No.
Yeah.
I was just like, Richard's in a space talking about NFTs. I gotta go, and that was it.
Yeah, that was a good conversation, and it's been awesome that he's been shouting out Hedron as like example of like functional NFTs. That's been a really great like kind of boost endorsement to the whole system. because he doesn't talk positively on a lot of things.
Not
I guess we
NFTs.
lost him. Not NFTs. Dude. He shits on NFTs all the time. Oh my god. But
I think Alex is frozen again.
yeah.
Well, the thing is, NFTs are petrock.com right now. They're building the infrastructure, and that's exactly what Alex did. Is he in it for the tech type thing? He actually built something that uses the utility to build further. And Alex will be back here in a minute. But that's the whole thing. Is like we needed the .com bubble to happen to understand what a .com was. And look what Amazon did. It went from an online book sale to one of the largest companies in the world. So building on utility and building on real kindness and ability is actually the most important part. Big man's back.
There he is.
I don't know how much longer my internet's going to last at this point. It seems to be getting worse.
Yeah,
but...
we can wrap this up pretty soon. It's been almost 2.5 hours. Go ahead.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Thank you, Alex, for sharing this time.
Yeah.
I caught wind that you were building a pulse chain data center.
Yeah.
And I was just curious, what is that all about? Like, what's the status? Like, what do you got going on there?
Yeah, so I've bought 2 fairly large warehouses, about 20,000 square feet. Fairly cheap. They need some repairs, and there's some construction guys out there fixing that stuff.
God, build an internet service. Next up, eh?
I once had fiber and it was delicious, and now I am slave to the man where I am. So I understand.
Oh, dude, I'm in Mexico, man. It's like,
oh, that sounds nice. Oh, you left Colombia?
Yeah, but the internet's pretty good in this place right now. But
no, you're fantastic. I just wish you got a Burning Man ticket so you could join us.
Bummer, hey.
I know.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. I think I'm going to call it here. I'm going to see if when Alex comes back. But there's one question I did want to answer in the chat real quick, and I will also. I know GRC he has said he's doing a stream, but I will probably also do a stream, Icosa AMA, and I'll probably walk through the UI too on launch date. But for Alex Swan, the best strategy for lazy long-term hold that requires little to no intervention, split between NFT and some Hedron staking. So the very simple answer to that is a little bit of everything, right? You get your Hedron for free from your hex stakes, and you just mint that periodically. Go ahead and stake that. And then if at any point when that stake ends, you can claim it, get your Icosa, stake that. Now you have 3 stakes going, your hex stake, your Hedron stake, and your Icosa stake. And then just take a little bit of money, whatever a insignificant amount is, throw it into the We Are All the SA pool, and then let that hang out for forever. Think of it as a collector's item, and then you just play the freemium game. Now, I know we said we're about to leave, but I think we're about to get a second wind. Real quick. Alex here, but we also got one other person. Hex Jesus himself, Dollar Cost Crypto is in the house.
My Lord. Oh my Lord.
Blessed be thy badge.
Pepe himself.
What's up,
What is going on, you guys?
How's it going?
I'm doing good, man. Going good.
Mm-hmm. How much of the stream did you catch?
Just kind of the beginning of it, and then just the tail end, like right now.
Nice, man. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you. We're not gonna stay on for too much longer, but if you have any questions,
I thought this was a 24-hour stream. Well, what's going on?
That's the Icosa launch, sir. But yeah, if you got any questions, man, feel free. We'll stick around for another 10-ish minutes.
Actually, can I just address Alex to the guy who asked that question just there? The simple thing.
Yep.
The thing about this is that, like, you think, okay, I'll just do the simple thing. I get Hedron for free, I'll stake it. But then you get Icosa for that. And so this is something that it kind of pulls you in. And you are like, it isn't just a kind of like set and forget. Like, I suppose you could do that and you could just set and forget it. But I think this is going to be something that draws people in because of the interesting dynamics and how many options you have of what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Watsu, like, we've only got 14 days, and most people are probably going to pile in on day one. In fact, with all the pools, they're highly incentivized for people to pile in on day one. But with the Watsu, like, I really think breaking it up into many NFTs to give yourself options You know, even if it's just 10 NFTs. So if you want to sell 10% of your position, you can just go and do that without having to, you know, wait until everybody dies.
Good point. Yeah. Yeah. DCC, I know we've been talking kind of behind the scenes about Icosa and Hedron. Have you given any more thought to it since our previous conversations?
No, I mean I have already. I mean I guess I did catch that part of the stream where you were saying like most people were just claiming and dumping it basically, and I was not one of those harlots. I claimed, but I did not mean to dump. So I'll tell you that much. But I've been slowly accumulating Hedron for quite a while. You know Sloth. I mean, we've been talking about it in private, but it's just the sort of thing where I've just been like running like a chicken with my head cut off, kind of spreading the good word about Hex and everything like that across streams. That now I'm starting to get a little bit more free time, but I'm still kind of in the middle of the courses right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's awesome. All right,
definitely.
I think at the end of the day, what most people don't understand about just Hedron in general is like if you hail an Uber driver, you don't know who they are. They're your middleman that's wrapping your ability to get on their car and have them go. Same thing as you buy a plane ticket. You're not the pilot. And so this is another way to wrap on a wrap on a wrap. And that is the inherent future of the future. So it's beautiful to have people that actually put things forward that do things correctly. No, Alex, you're go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, it's a good question for you here, man, from Jawa. Oh,
no,
nope.
we can't hear you.
Yeah, I thought it was just me. I was like, oh damn, maybe I can't hear.
Damn, technical difficulty. That's all right. It'll come in a minute. Let's see.
That'll repop your device settings, sir.
Hey, Kool-Aid, what's going on, man?
Dude, you love the fuck out of you, buddy. You're one of the legends. It's good to see you, man.
You too, man. You too. Don't
give yourself enough credit. Respond to me when I message. I rarely message.
Is that better?
Yeah.
All right. I've been talking this whole time and no one's been hearing me.
He's like, and the secret to Hedron is.
So yeah, here's a question for you, Alex, about the wallet tracking stuff. I remember you talking about this. You want to share any details about that?
Yeah, so this is going to be hard to get. Like, I've got something that kind of works. It's a thing I'm working on that I call the Hexagon Archive, and it's a subgraph that tracks. It tracks by wallet address, and it does like how many stakes do they have, and like their entire staking history, as well as what are HSIs, what are not, how much Hedron have they minted, how much Maxi have they minted, how much Pulse Doge have they minted, like just going through painting the entire picture of the ecosystem in one place where you can just go type in an address and like this is what this person's done entirely. And it's reverse searchable, so you can go through and be like, I'm interested in this liquidation that happened on this day on Hedron, and then you can go back up through their wallet address and then find out what that person's done, how many have they bid on, and that kind of stuff. Just really like connecting all of the dots and the relationships of all this stuff in an easily searchable way. The problem is that it takes forever to index. Like I have the code functions, but it cannot index fast enough to stay live with the blockchain. So like I need some beef behind it, like the Pulse Chain data center potentially. So like,
damn.
So there's going to be some fun things.
So it's like Nansen AI essentially, but what we need to do is just put some juice behind it to actually power that. We'll talk. Obviously, I'm trying to get a hold of you, but we'll talk. But yeah, no, that's again, it's the brilliance of the Hex Pulse community of people is we are building. We are the yellow brick road.
Exactly.
All right, everybody. Well, it has been 2.5 hours. This has been an absolutely incredible stream. Gifford, Identity Block, DCC, Blue Bum, Kool-Aid, GRC, who was on earlier. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much. Alex, thank you to you for building everything, and thanks for coming on my channel, man. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, me too. A lot of fun. I know you guys wanted to know about the data center thing. We'll talk about it next time. We'll do this again.
Yeah. absolutely.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, everybody in the chat, thank you so much for hanging out with me. And I will catch you guys on the next one when Icosa is live.
Yes, Wolf.